in any industry, it spills over into our other industries. In my own neighborhoods that I represent, in areas like Silver Lake and Echo Park, the florists, the restaurants, the caterers, the dry cleaners, people are really suffering, and a lot of that is because we don't have that film industry as strong as it used to be here in Los Angeles.
You said that last year there were only 3 feature films produced in Los Angeles, and one of the public speakers, I think, said there were only 3 this year. Do you see any turnaround for this?
We do. The biggest news was, the city of Los Angeles has not, by the way, been sitting on its heels or been resting on its heels. We have been moving forward on this issue, but the city of Los Angeles does not control most of the money that these movies, unfortunately, are faced with, the costs. It's really been with the state. And other states have offered tax incentives to payroll taxes or income taxes. And the state of California, for too many years, has said, nope, we're not going to do that, despite many of us going to Sacramento and lobbying for it. The good news was this year, the state legislature passed and the governor signed into law with the budget earlier this year that there will be $500 million in tax credits to finally compete with places like North Carolina and New York and Canada and Romania, where we can actually now say to a film that's making those calculations about, they want to be here in Los Angeles, they say. They want to stay in California. It's often where their families are. It's where the stars and the producers and directors are still based. But then when they make that calculation, they can say, hey, California can match something that these other states have, and at the end of the day, we want to be here. That was the biggest news. But now we're looking at what else the city can do to make the infrastructure of our city a film-friendly place, from how easy it is to get permits to whether there's local plug-ins for people to be able to get power for their lights and all the equipment that they have instead of having to bring generators that are noisy and polluting onto our streets, or simple issues that are logistics like where do we park and how do we park our trucks for a reasonable price to make us competitive with other places.
What are some of the other suggestions that you had in this package of materials you brought before the council?
Well, we looked at a number of things. We looked, first of all, of trying to have a more focused city hall on filming. So one of the ideas I put forward was the idea of having a film czar, somebody who was ultimately responsible for all of the policies and all of the implementation of these policies for filming in LA, so that when the industry has an issue, for instance, if our tax structure is too difficult for productions, that person would advocate for them. Or if there's a problem with permitting, that they would help make sure that permits got out into their hands in a quickly and expedited way. We also, are looking at other suggestions from downtown, for instance, where a lot of commercials are filmed. Right now it's very difficult to get the big trucks that people need into many of the parking structures. So why not change the code for the construction of our new parking structures to allow for 19 feet or whatever they need for the clearance to be able to make sure that filming easily fits into our downtown buildings. Similarly, a lot of production companies said that the parking lots were charging them, the private parking lots, exorbitant rates. And I said, well, the city of Los Angeles has parking lots everywhere. Why not look at opening those up at costs? We probably can't afford to subsidize it, but at least just get back our costs, make it much cheaper than some of the private parking lots to make sure that they have a place to film. And then again, as I mentioned before, having plug-ins on the streets in high-impact areas like downtown or Hollywood, where there's lots of filming, have the Department of Water and Power build out the plug-ins for people to be able to have all their equipment there without having to have a generator on the street.
Kinds of things that a film czar might take care of. Would this replace the Film LA organization that's currently there?
No, Film LA exists outside of City Hall, and right now they are the city-selected entity for giving out all the permits, a one-stop shop, essentially. And we're putting out a new request for proposals that Film LA and anybody else who's interested will apply to renew that process. And in our RFP, we actually have a tighter turnaround time now for permits. We have smoother community relations to make sure that residents aren't disrupted, businesses aren't disrupted, but that those rules are clear and clean for everybody so that we can make sure production can be in our neighborhoods. And also, we're looking within that RFP of making sure that we bring down whatever costs that we can here locally. So Film LA helps us do that, but they're outside of the city. This film czar would ultimately be able to answer to the mayor and to the city council and help them implement pro-filming policies in LA.
Thanks for the explanation, Council President Eric Garcetti. Thanks for joining us on Council Week in Review.
Always my pleasure.
And so the incentives to keep film and television production in Los Angeles were approved with a vote of 13 ayes. LA City View is the government access cable channel for the City of Los Angeles, featuring live coverage of City Council meetings and programming about City Department services and events. You can watch City Council meetings live or view past meetings by going to the city's website at lacity.org and follow the instructions for video on demand. And we invite you to address the Los Angeles City Council on any item on the council agenda, as well as during public comment. You may come downtown to City Hall or go to the Van Nuys City Hall and participate via video teleconferencing. And now, those of you living in the Harbor area can go to the San Pedro City Hall, located at 638 South Beacon Street, room 700 in San Pedro, and also participate in council meetings via video teleconferencing. Remember, you can watch all Los Angeles City Council meetings live in their entirety on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, beginning at 10 a.m. On Sundays, you can watch the replay of all the week's meetings, also beginning at 10 a.m. Council Week in Review can be seen Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m., and on Sundays at 9:30 a.m. Well, that concludes our program for the week ending March 27th, 2009. On behalf of Jerry Mendez and everyone here at Channel 35, I'm Jack Popejoy. Thank you for watching, and please join us for the next Council Week in Review.
Hello, I'm Martin Cooper, President of the Los Angeles Quality and Productivity Commission. Our commission helps city departments make their operations more efficient, customer-friendly, and cost-effective. One of the ways we do that is by recognizing outstanding projects through the annual Quality and Productivity Awards. This year, 28 projects have won awards. Join us while we show you a few of these outstanding projects.
From parades to parks, irrigation to the internet, the Quality and Productivity Commission is honoring the best the city has to offer.
Ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, welcome from the entertainment capital of the world, the Hollywood Santa Parade.
When the chamber was doing it, the price tag was about $1 million for both filming the parade or getting it on television, filming it, quality production, and putting the parade on. We were able to do it for roughly half that cost.
The new build date is the 19th, which is next Friday. So please, if you will, go ahead and pay the $200 and call us back. I'll make a notation on your account, okay?
There's only one call waiting, and the maximum wait time is only 4 seconds. The speed of answering is very important. When we started at the beginning of the year, it was average 188 seconds in which the phone calls are being answered. But right now, they're about 20 seconds or less. We're able to answer the phone calls.
We teach our representatives, and they know that the first thing that you do is listen to a customer. You let the customer vent, and you don't take it personally because it's not against us. It's about the situation that they're in, and to show empathy toward the customer, to look for solutions, take action, and make sure that whatever you promise a customer that you're going to do, that you follow up on that.
We want to teach them, first of all, job skills. This program teaches them social interaction with diverse groups, but also life skills that are going to take them not just only here with the city of Los Angeles in this job that they have, but for their future careers and whatever they decide to do, if they want to become mayor themselves or whatever have you.
I was pretty bad. I went from high school to high school, dropped out, got my high school diploma after a little while, but I was in trouble. I was, I wasn't thinking about my future. This is just like a door opening up, and then it's up to me to do. They do their part by giving me a chance, and I do my part by working hard.
I couldn't get a job because I didn't graduate high school. I couldn't hold a job either because I didn't really learn any work ethics after school. After I had my first son, I decided I had to make a change. I found this program. It really got me motivated to staying on to the right course.
It makes me feel good. It makes me want to keep going, want to work harder.
For more on the 2008 Quality and Productivity Commission Awards, stay tuned to Channel 35.
LA City View Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
Good morning, Los Angeles, and welcome to the City Council meeting for April 1st, 2009. We are here in the John Ferraro Council Chamber, room 340 of City Hall, where we meet every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. We try to get out to Van Nuys City Hall for the first Friday of each month, but otherwise we are here downtown. If you live closer to San Pedro or to Van Nuys, you can always watch us in our council chambers there and also testify remotely from those places. I'm Council President Eric Garcetti, and I'm joined by my colleagues Richard Alarcon, Wendy Gruhl, Jose Huizar, Bernard Parks, Greg Smith, Jack Weiss, and Dennis Zine. We are awaiting 2 more members to constitute 10 members or 2/3 and a quorum of our 15-member body. So I'd like to call the following council members who are now late to come down. Mr. Cardenas, Ms. Hahn, Mr. Labange, Mr. Reyes, Mr. Rosendahl, and Mr. Wesson, if you'll please join us as soon as possible. Ms. Perry is excused today, and we do not expect her in, but otherwise the rest of the council should be here and needs to come down right away. Our agendas are available to the public online 72 hours in advance at lacity.org or here in person in council chambers or in our city clerk's office. We also welcome those members of the public who have joined us here today in chambers and those who are viewing us on Channel 35, which broadcasts throughout the city's cable system each of our meetings and rebroadcasts in the evening those very same meetings as well. We also are available online at lacity.org, where you can catch live streaming webcasts of our council meetings and archived footage of our past council meetings. You can also sign up for alerts for council agendas and committee meeting agendas. Also, there are podcasts available and a wealth of information on city departments, services, and ways to improve the quality of your life here in Los Angeles. Lastly, if you're not close to a television or a computer, you can always use your telephone and call the following number to listen into council meetings. That's 213-621-CITY. That's a service called Council Phone, and again, that number is 213-621-CITY. We are awaiting a quorum right now. In the meantime, if folks would like to be heard on any of the items that have been put on the agenda for public hearing today, please fill out a speaker card in the back. Hand that to one of the sergeants at arms, and we'll be sure to get you in the mix. If you're in San Pedro or Van Nuys, just hand it to the staff there, and we'll make sure that you are heard as well when we come to those items. We also have a section of the meeting called General Public Comment, which is for items that are not on the agenda, but nevertheless under the jurisdiction of the City Council, and we have 2 minutes per speaker. A clock is on the podium there to help guide your time, as well as our policies for addressing the council as well. So with that, I'll make one last quorum call for Councilmember Cardenas, Councilmember Hahn, Councilmember Labange, Councilmember Reyes, Councilmember Rosendahl, and Councilmember Wesson. And as soon as we have those members, we're waiting 2 more, we will have a quorum. If we can't meet a quorum in the next couple minutes, we will have to adjourn for lack of a quorum. So if those members will please come down immediately. Thank you. We now have 6 members missing, and we are at 9 with Mr. Alarcon, Ms. Gruhl, Mr. Huizar, Mr. Parks, Mr. Reyes, Mr. Smith, Mr. Weiss, and Mr. Zine here. We're still awaiting Mr. Cardenas. We're still awaiting Ms. Hahn. We're still awaiting Mr. Labange. We're still awaiting Mr. Rosendahl, and we're still awaiting Mr. Wesson. If the sergeants at arms can please inquire to where they are so we can begin as soon as possible. Thank you again to everybody who is here and waiting. Thank you for your patience while we await those late council members. Please call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Gruhl, Hahn, Huizar, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
First order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
All right. Mr. Reyes moves. Mr. Rosendahl seconds without objection. We'll go ahead and move those minutes. Next order of business.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Weiss moves and Mr. Zine seconds without objection. Those will be approved as well. If we can run through the agenda, please.
Before beginning the regular agenda, Mr. President, there's a request to continue item number 34, and that would be to April 15th.
Is there any objection, colleagues, to continuing item 34 till the, 15th, you said?
April 15th.
April 15th. Seeing none, we will continue that item until April 15th. Next items, please.
First item on the agenda is an item notice for public hearing. It's a finding of public convenience or necessity in Council District 15, and the recommendation for council action is to grant the application.
Okay, we'll move that. If there are any cards on that?
No, I don't believe so.
Go ahead and please open the roll then, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, that is approved. Next items, please.
Next item is item number 2. That's also a public hearing item, and the recommendation for council action is to open the hearing and continue the hearing and ordinance to be presented on April 22nd.
Okay, without objection, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing, continue that ordinance till the 22nd of April on item 2.
Next items are street lighting district ordinances, items 3 through 6, and I believe 12 council members will be present. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
Yes, let's hold the ordinances. Those require 12 members for the first reading, and we're still awaiting Mr. Cardenas, Ms. Hahn, Mr. Labange, and Mr. Wesson. If they'll please join us so we can constitute 12 members as soon as possible. Next items, please.
Next items 7 through 11 are also public hearing items, and Building and Safety has recommended those matters be continued to April 29th.
Okay, without objection, we'll continue 7 through 11 till the 29th of April. Next items, please.
Next items are items for which public hearings have been held, items 12 through 22. There is an ordinance on item number 12. Do you wish to hold that one on the desk?
Yes, please. Let's hold 12 till we have 12 members. Mr. Reyes, special. 14 for Mr. Reyes. Mr. Huizar? 18 for Mr. Huizar. Other specials, 12 through 22. 12 through 22. Seeing none, we will go ahead then on the balance. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held, items 23 through 30. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, we have cards on 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. That leaves us 29 and 30. Anybody wishing to call those special? We'll open and close the public hearings for those, and if not, we'll take up 29 and 30. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
Ten ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Next items on the are the closed session items 31 and 32. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
Yes, let's hold those on the desk, please.
And on the continuation agenda, item number 33 is an item for which public hearing has been held.
Okay. Mr. Zine?
Yes.
Okay. Hold that on the desk for Mr. Zine. And next items?
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held. Item 34 has already been continued, and I believe item 35 has a...
Yes, we have cards on 35, so we will call item 35 special as well. We have a request even before public comment to take 35 out of order. If there's no objection, we will take that first. I'd like to recognize Mr. Parks. I know there's a lot of folks that are here for this item, and we appreciate you very much taking time out of your day to be here, and I'd like to recognize Mr. Parks, and we'll have our public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. President. As many of us know, we had a very tragic accident happen recently in front of our at USC, and we'd like to, as we did yesterday, ask for this as a Rule 23 to have it on calendar today. I'd like to ask the Detective Rinder to come up. Also, Dr. Michael Jackson from USC, Blessing Wavering, President of the Panhellenic Community, Cameron Kay, the President of the Lambda Fraternity, Carmen Batchin, the mother of Adriana, and Barbara Friedland, Marcus's mother, to come up to the podium, and all of the students and people that are here from SC and are interested, if you just fill up this middle row. But what we'd like to do is that just give you a brief information. On March 29th at 3 a.m., 2 USC students, Adriana Batchin and Marcus Garfinkel, were struck by a vehicle, and unfortunately Ms. Batchin is deceased because of the accident. Mr. Garfinkel is hospitalized in serious condition. I'd like to ask Detective Rinder to give us the circumstances and also any information for the public consumption that might aid in this resolution of this case.
Yes, sir. Good morning to all. First and foremost, I'd like to offer my deepest sympathy for the family members of the victim and those that knew her, and my prayers go out for the victim and the family members. On March 29th, at approximately 3 a.m., 2 USC students were walking southbound in the crosswalk on Jefferson at Hoover. During this time, a motorist that was traveling eastbound on Jefferson failed to stop for a red traffic signal and struck both USC students while they were walking in the crosswalk. The motorist continued eastbound on Jefferson. Shortly thereafter, the motorist stopped. A passenger exited the vehicle at that time and removed the male student from the hood of the vehicle, threw him to the ground. The motorist then continued to drive eastbound on Jefferson, then southbound on Figueroa. The vehicle was described as either a Honda Accord, Lexus, or Toyota Corolla, black. According to witnesses, the driver of the vehicle was described as a male Hispanic, shaved head. The passenger in the vehicle was also described as a male Hispanic. There's a strong likelihood that the window of the vehicle would be shattered and there would be some front end damage. We're looking for the public help in providing us with some leads relative to capturing the suspects that were responsible for this incident.
Could you give the number of contact?
You can contact Detective Rinder at South Traffic. The telephone number there is 323-290-6070. During the after hours, you can contact the watch commander at South Traffic Division, and that number is 213-485-7336.
Thank you. And let me ask Ms. Batson if you could come up and be our next speaker, and you could also assist her up to the table. Thank you. And also, I think you have a photograph that you'd like to show the public.
I would like to thank the city, the council members, especially you, Mr. Parks, for inviting me here. Also the LAPD for all that they've done and are doing to get the killers of my baby. And all the angel faces that are here from USC. We called Adriana Angel Face, and her sister called her Itsy, like the Itsy spider, because she was so petite. She was my sunrise on November 13th, 1990. And now the sun will never rise again for anyone in my family. All I'm pleading is that whoever saw anything, please come forward. I need to catch these animals. Please, I beg you, help us.
Okay.
Show them my baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, council members, thank you very much. On behalf of the Botchin family, Father James, Sister Alexandra, the grandparents Bui, Papa, Mato, they thank you today. I cannot accurately describe or convey the grief this family is going through right now. We appreciate this today, and hopefully this will lead to the apprehension of these cowards. We thank Councilman Bernard Parks and all of you today, as well as the media. Please keep the story alive and help catch these people. Thank you very much.
We'd ask Barbara Wiedlin to come up and speak on behalf of Marcus.
I'm Marcus's mom, and I am the lucky one here. And I'd just like to say that the public, someone does know something, or someone that was involved in this, and they need to come forward. And I appreciate the efforts that everyone's made to give a reward on that, for that, so that someone will come forward. I just plead with them to do that. That's the right thing to do.
Also, Dr. Jackson from USC.
Thank you for allowing us to come here before you today to express to you how sad we are about the loss of our student, Adriana Bachin, and the injuries suffered by Marcus Garfinkel. As you can imagine, our USC community is devastated by this tragedy, and so we're very grateful for the support of Councilmember Parks and the other council members who are considering a resolution to offer a award for the apprehension of the men who did this. The University of Southern California is also very supportive of this, and on behalf of President Sample and our Provost Max Nikias, the university would also like to announce that it is putting up $50,000 as an additional incentive to lead to the capture of these folks and proving that they're the ones who did this. We really do appreciate the support of the City Council. As you know, USC is very much involved in this city, so anything we can continue to do together to solve this crime and continue to make our campus community more safe, we will work with you to do that. Thank you very much.
We ask Blessing to come up on behalf of the sorority community.
Good morning, council members. I would just like to thank you for having us here today. I'm speaking on behalf of the USC student body today. This tragedy has touched the lives of every student at USC. Adriana was the roommate of one of our students, best friend, sorority sister to our girls. This has just been an unbelievable experience, and we want to thank you as a council for serving as a catalyst. Just the feeling of having these people out in the city right now leaves a completely terrible feeling, a sinking feeling of unsafety, and it's just unfair. I think it speaks volumes to our students to see how many of us are standing here today to support Adriana and Marcus's family. We care so much because she was a member of our family, and just for, if you had been at our school 2 days ago, over 1,000 students were standing at a vigil and a memorial that we held for the two of them. So we just want to thank you so much for your support, and please, please help us in any way possible. Thank you.
Okay. And then we'd ask Cameron to come up on behalf of the fraternity community.
Good morning, and thank you for having us. We've gathered before you today as a passionate and moved group of USC students. We have gathered to show you that in more than just words, in large numbers, how tragically devastated we are by these events. We gather not to seek a heated vengeance, but we gather to seek justice for those who have been lost and hurt. There are two men, if you want to call them men, because they lack the courage I feel to be called men, out on the streets right now, who need to be brought to justice. And offering this reward is our best shot of bringing these people to justice, and furthermore, helping to bring closure to the tragic loss that we have experienced. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just would like to thank the parents, the school community for being here and support. And I just asked Detective Rinder, would you just give the phone number one more time to let the public know how to contact LAPD in case they have any information regarding this case?
I could be reached at South Traffic Detective Section, and that telephone number is 323-290-6070. After hours, contact the Watch Commander at South Traffic Division, and that number is 213-485-6070. 7336.
I'm sorry, did we miss you speaking?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Hello, good morning, council members. I addressed you yesterday,
Yes.
but I just want to reiterate how important it is to all of us for any help for finding information. And this is one of my sorority sisters, one of Adriana's best friends, and she wanted to say something.
Good.
It's hard to imagine that Audrey won't be with the four of us when we go out to spring break last year like she was with us last week. And I just want to say to all of you, to anyone that might know any information, please come forward, because she is one of the most bright, beautiful young girls I've ever met. She was the one that you could lean on, and she would always ask if you're okay. She was never concerned if she didn't have the time to talk to you. And I just can't believe that she's not going to be with us the next 4 years. So please, if you have any information, come forward.
Okay. Thank you very much. Colleagues, I'd ask for a unanimous vote on this $75,000 reward in behalf of the Adriana Bachin, 18 years old, and Marcus Garfinkel, age 19, who is currently hospitalized for this tragic incident that occurred on March 29th.
Thank you, Mr. Parks, and thank you to everybody who is here. Recognize the pain, not only that you're feeling, but the courage it takes to be here right now. So thank you very much for that. And Mr. Zine, would you like to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, and condolences to the family and to the students at SC. Detective, I know you're looking for witnesses that may have witnessed the incident take place, but in addition to that, the car obviously has damage. And if we can get some information, the body shops, to windshield repair shops, a car abandoned in the area, some information on that. If they can locate that car, maybe trace that back to the individuals involved. Can you discuss a little more in depth about the vehicle?
Yes, sir. Currently, what we have done thus far, we have disseminated flyers, crime alert bulletins throughout the area, which included both Central Bureau and South Bureau, from the 10 freeway all the way south down to the harbor area. And those flyers were basically disseminated to all repair shops, businesses. And what we're looking for are any one of the three vehicles, either Honda, Lexus, or Toyota, that has some hood damage or perhaps damage to the windshield. We're certain that there was damage to the windshield, according to witnesses.
Thank you. We'll now take the vote on the reward motion. Madam Clerk, if you'll please open the roll on the motion, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. We'll send that forthwith to the mayor without objection, and thank you all very much again. And we'll make sure that that reward motion is broadcast as well on our city channel throughout all the cable system in the city to inform more people. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We now have 12 members here, and we were holding some ordinances on the desk. This is items 3 through 6 and item 12.
And, Mr. President, just for the record, on item number 12, that's for ballot tabulation results for modification of the fashion BID, and the ballot results are 83.67% in favor and 16.33% opposed, and there is not a majority protest, and that can go forward.
Okay. Thank you for that information. If we can take up items 3 through 6 and number 12, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Those items are approved. We also have items 31 and 32, which are the closed session items that were heard in Budget and Finance. Budget and Finance Committee members said it's all right to move those. Yes, Mr. Weezer?
Yes, number 12 forthwith, please.
Sure. Number 12, without objection, will send forthwith. Nobody else wishes to call 31 and 32 special for closed session. Let's go ahead and take those. 32? Okay, our city attorney is recommending 32, but let's then take up 31 if there's no objection. If we can walk through what the settlement is for item 31, please.
The settlement on item number 31, and that's the case of Threm versus City of LA, and the settlement amount on that is $95,000.
Okay. Let's go ahead and open the roll, close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 eyes.
Okay.
And just for the record on that last one, it's a partial settlement of a two-step settlement.
Okay. That two-part settlement, first part is approved. We'll now go to our general public comment. This is for items not on the agenda, but nevertheless under the jurisdiction of the council. Rafael Nadal is our first speaker. After that will be Melrose Larry Green.
Good morning, Mr. President. Mr. President, I share the loss and the pain of the USC student, and I'm sure that the police department of Los Angeles Police Department will soon find the culprit and make sure that they're punished. Mr. President, this morning I walked from 617 Olive to a short few blocks, and I'd like to share with you what I saw. I saw women and children, I saw senior citizens, and I saw veterans sleeping on the street. I don't think this is an outrage, Mr. President. I think this is a national catastrophe. This is a national catastrophe on the magnitude of a 10th on a Richter scale. I cannot believe, Mr. President, that you would have the like of a representative, Mr. Gil Cedillo. He is missing in action when the mayor of Los Angeles is calling for zero tolerance on children sleeping on the street. We still find them right on the street. We should be calling FEMA because that is a national emergency, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to take a second. I'd like you to take a second with me and think in terms of these people that are homeless, these people that are needing help. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nadal. Melrose Larry Green is our next speaker. Mr. Green here. And there he is. Thank you again for bringing folks in yesterday.
Well, I want to say that all these students that were here are largely because Cameron, the president of the fraternity, and Kelly, president of sorority, contacted each and every sorority and fraternity at USC and other schools, and other students too. I was never in fraternities, and non-Greeks were contacted too, and they came at their own expense, came down here, and they brought buses, and it would be anything that could be done could be done. It's phenomenal, and I applaud the folks at USC for getting behind this. And the only thing I wanted to say is that we had an accident last night on Fountain and La Brea. Granted, not in the city of LA, I think it's West Hollywood, but somebody died right at the corner of Fountain and La Brea, a pedestrian. And the problem in LA of reckless driving, people running through stop signs, running through red lights, is endemic. I mean, I run every morning on Fountain and La Brea. I ran this morning on Fountain and La Brea. And I want everybody in the city council to know how personally grateful I am, because $75,000 is a lot of money. And that's what talks in our society, unfortunately. And see that woman, Carmen, the mother of Audrey on TV, and see her crying. I think after all of you have to say to yourselves, what if that had been my son or my daughter, or in some of your cases you even have grandchildren the age, some of the older folks on the council. But I'm so glad that you did approve this, and I was so heartwarming. I wanted you to understand that Cameron is an undergraduate student and Kelly's an undergraduate student, and even though I don't know them that well, I recommend them to work for you because they're brilliant writers. Cameron and Kelly are brilliant organizers, and no offense to the older folks at USC, but those two youngsters were the reason why this big crowd was here this morning, and I wanted to thank you. The work really begins now. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is in San Pedro. That's Peter Burmeister. Good morning, Mr. Burmeister. And after that will be Sherry Haro, also in San Pedro.
Let's go. Sits. Good morning, council members and President. I was here yesterday. There's a unique system you have. I'm coming over here before you for support, and also for our four-legged friends. They cannot speak for themselves, so we have to speak for them. I am an ex-canine trainer, and like yesterday I was a little nervous. I was not prepared. Today I'm prepared a little better. I acquired a piece of land 22 years ago from the Department of Water Power. I got a permit, and it was brushes And we got it, we landscape it, we maintain it, and made a beautiful park-like setting. And all of a sudden, the Department of Water and Power want to take it away from us. And here I want to show you, here's a piece of land. Here's when we took it over. Another picture, more than 1,000 words. And here's it now, how that looks like we prepared it. A nice green spot for people to go and officers to train their dogs and exercise the dogs off duty, because they cannot go in public parks. They create a liability. They go over there in our facilities and exercise the dog. Appreciate your support, and thank you again for listening to us. Appreciate it, and thank you also, Mrs. Hahn, for your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Sherry Harrow is our next speaker. After that will be Mike Forsberg, also in San Pedro.
I can't? Thank you, Your Honorable Council members and everyone President. I wanted to share with you some of the support we have from the community, newspapers, our local newspapers, which cover Carson, Harbor City, Lomita, Long Beach, Rancho Palos Verdes, San Pedro, Torrance, and Wilmington, amongst others. The title of this article is, "This Good Deed Got Punished." Just want to bring it to your attention that what we do is community for this, for everybody. People see the sign and they come and ask for help for their own animals. They come, we help them. We do demos in the area with our dogs. And just some pictures here of, I guess you can't see too well, but you can go look at Coast Gopher, www.coastgopher.com, and you can read. They came out to our field on Saturday and took pictures and wrote articles on what we do and pictures to show that. Pete's been working on this field for 22 years. It's the most beautiful piece of property. I invite you to come, look at it, see what we do, see what this is all about, and use your judgment on, what to be done at this point. I thank you very much for your time, and hope you can help us. Please help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Forsberg is our next speaker in San Pedro, and then after that is Estela Molina. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Mike Forsberg, and I want to thank you for letting me come before you and talk about the training site that we have. What I'm going to ask for is your support in helping us retain this property. I've trained with Pete for 20 years. I've gone through 3 dogs with him, and over this period of time that I've learned much more than just training dogs. All of us that are in the club, we've learned about personal responsibility, community service, and just helping out other people. It's not just a dog training club. We are really heavily involved in service to the community. And I'm a landscape contractor, and I'm based out of Harbor City. And I'm responsible with Pete of helping maintain the field. And I would just like some of you to come out and take a look at this field and see what we've done with it. If you go down, I think it's less than a half a mile away, there's another area there, another DWP tower, and you'll be able to see what happens when something is not taken care of. Our field is exactly like a park. As a landscape contractor, I can tell you that this is almost perfectly maintained. And what happens is that Pete is also out there taking care of the side of the freeway, which borders one side of it. Underneath the freeway, he takes care of the graffiti that comes up all the time. And what we do out there is just maintain and try and help the community. And so I'm just asking for your support in helping us to retain this property that Pete has had. So I want to thank you once again for the opportunity to come before you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Estela Molina is our Next speaker in San Pedro. After that is Richard Kearns here in council chambers. Good morning, Ms. Molina.
Hi, I want to talk to everybody in general about what the subject is. I kind of want to show the pictures. I want to talk about my experience training with Peter. I have been training with Peter for a year now, and I could just tell you that he has helped everybody in the community. Not only me, there's a couple of young fellas in there, a young girl now, 11 years old, getting just started, and he has not only helped me with dog training, he has basically given me a job. He has helped everybody here, not only with their dogs, but we're considered a family. Our experience, what goes on in our family, happens basically and discussed over the field. Our dogs, anything that we need, he's there. The grass is so beautiful. We all enjoy it. We even have picnics in the summer. I just want to say that if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be in the place that I am. I had gotten myself into a lot of trouble, and now I am a total different person. I come from the community. Well, it's not even a community. It's a incorporated city of Los Angeles, Lenox, and it doesn't have a very good background. But I could tell you that I am a different person, and he has helped me, my family. And I wanted everybody to know that these are some of the officers that have supported us, and they're from different departments, and they come to our field and come before and after their shift is done. And I'm sorry, everybody, because I'm kind of nervous. I really want to help in general.
Don't worry, you're doing great.
So hopefully you guys understand me. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening to us, and I really appreciate your help. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Molina. Our next speaker is Richard Kearns here in council chambers. After that is Zuma Dog.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Richard Kearns, an AIDS activist and long-term survivor, a medical cannabis patient and advocate, and poet and journalist. I am cooling my heels in a motel after an outbreak of bed bugs in my assisted care institution. I want to thank my colleague Dejay Kuti for covering for me last week and echo and amplify what she had to say. I cannot completely express the outrage I feel at a plan I've heard for a number of dispensaries that have opened since the ICO to sue the city if any of their hardship applications get denied. I say, don't hear any of the hardship applications. Open the 187 clinics that are there now in place with operating experience. Brand them. Make them put a big city sticker on the outside and say, this is a legit dispensary. The other dispensaries are the ones that are causing the problem. If they're not registering with the city, they shouldn't even be open now. And there are lots of other places for them to open. Unincorporated Los Angeles County, 88 different localities in the Los Angeles County area that they can open with. Why do they need to hide in Los Angeles? Please move forward with this progress and set up a fee and payment service. The patients are eager to work with the city on this prospect. We're hoping to establish metaphoric medical cannabis neighborhood councils where everyone is represented and there are places to talk about these things and develop everything. Thank you very much for your attention and for your assistance in this matter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kearns. Zuma Dog is our next speaker. After that is Oscar Johnson. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. That was certainly an emotional outpouring. I've never seen anything like it. It certainly changes the whole tone of everything I came here to speak about. But, you know, I have to carry on and deliver the messages. So basically, like I said yesterday, if you want to know what 3 years feels like, if you know the first time you saw Zuma Dog, Michael Hunt's here today. We came here, it's the 3-year anniversary week of Zuma Dog, April 2006 over Venice Beach. And it's been a living nightmare. It's been just a hell experience. But you know what? I'd like to thank the people of Los Angeles. The reason I am standing here today on this planet alive is due to the people of Los Angeles in the spirit of the community that just keeps me going and in my most desperate moments. And this is very important for a lot of people watching that suffer from loneliness and isolation and just don't know what the hell you're going to do today. Well, just get out there and try to make a difference in some way. Even if you walk up to someone on the street that you think doesn't deserve $1 and just go, here, here's $1. They will think that the biggest miracle just happened. And just try to use your time prudently. We have a lot of people out of work right now. And more on that. Something else I'd like to talk about is, let's run through quickly the top issues in the city. The commissioner appointments you saw on Fox 11 News. They're sitting there taking spas and resort vacations. LACER is $7 billion in debt. I'm here to say the biggest thing that we need to find out is Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa and his LACER investments. They were way too risky. They were not investment grade. How did the people managing the funds get the accounts? Did they contribute to Villaraigosa? Who was watching this? Why did this happen? If I was here warning you all along this was happening, then why didn't the mayor know this? And I'm here to tell you something else, people. I got a call from 202 Washington, D.C. They said, David, I bet you didn't know we follow your blogging. They were responding to my Azuma Dog posting about some of the things happening here. I now, if I could just finish one sentence, have sources on Capitol Hill that are providing me information, and I will be providing that to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dog. Oscar Johnson is our next speaker. After that will be Arnold Sachs. Good morning.
My name is Oscar Johnson. I'm proactive. I speak for the oppressed and I speak for cultural change. I'd like to send our condolences to the Palestinian people for the terror that Israel is proposing upon them. We'd like to say U.S.-Israel war machine lead the Middle East now. But back into America, we thank our President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. We see two peoples in Washington D.C. standing for a change in this country, and President Barack Obama said that we should work together. We should come together and try to make Los Angeles a better city to live in. We should stop neglecting our responsibility and our duty toward our citizens, the citizens that live in this city. Because we see our policy is nothing but hypocrisy, deceit, and broken promises. Our mayor has failed the city, and our chief of police have failed the city. They do nothing. They do not do anything morally. Only thing you see them out to do, they're doing something for immoral. The chief of police we need to recall Chief Brandt. We need to indict Mayor Villaraigosa. But I think we have President Barack Obama is leading us in the right direction today to turn America around and say yes, we can. We see that the money that the mayor is receiving and the other governors are receiving the stimulus package, and President Barack Obama said if they are abusing money, they remove from their job, from their service, because they're not being a servant of the public. We need a fair and just government, because if we don't look for truth and justice, tomorrow will be the same day as today. Broken promise and deceit. We need a government that will be fair for all peoples. We need a government that would be fair for all peoples. We need a fair and just government. We need to clean up Skid Row. We need to remove Jan Perry from being on Skid Row, because Jan Perry don't do anything for the citizens on Skid Row. Skid Row is not an environment for women and children to be on. Our Constitution said women first, and Skid Row is a corrupt and filthy environment. Should be, and women and children should be exposed on Skid Row.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. Arnold Sachs is our next speaker. After that will be Chuck Tenon.
Yes, good morning, City Council. Zuma Dog is right. It is a somber occasion. It's hard to change the tenor of it, but things need to be said for the public's knowledge. First of all, it'd be nice if the City Hall had a contingency plan for the end of the quarter when everybody comes in to pay their property taxes, so there's not a fiasco like there was yesterday and a line curling around the building almost to get in. There should be something so that the public who needs to come into City Hall and not to the property assessor's office has an opportunity to enter that's different from the Main Street entrance. Then I'd like to also discuss, there's an item on today's agenda. If you're listening in San Pedro, there's an item on the Art Parks Health and Aging Committee agenda today for a reduction to extend the discount evening parking rate at Pershing Square parking garages to accommodate those attending late-night downtown theater, restaurants, and bars. I thought somebody wrote a letter stating that we needed to raise the fees so that more services could be kept up and provided for the city, and yet they want to reduce parking fees in downtown L.A. Then I'd like to talk about the fiasco that occurred on Friday in the City Council chambers and the grilling that was given to the the Animal Control Department, City Council shouldn't air your dirty laundry in public. It was fair and fine to hear some of your complaints, but when it was said and done, the man still has his job. The mayor disagrees evidently with your perception. And speaking of perception, Councilman Zine, I take offense with your opportunity to raise the trash can and show that all the complaints. How many complaints are issued against the police department? Is there a dumpster in L.A. big enough to hold them? Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chuck Tenon. And then after that is Dr. Clyde Williams.
Good morning, Council President Garcetti and council members. The Marine Life Protection Act initiative of 1999 to close down our offshore recreational resources that supports the local economy is going to be hurt. So far, private funding has spent an estimated $60 million to implement it. Then it's going to cost $35 million each year to monitor it, each year thereafter. The original estimate in 1999 was $250,000 for small closures. Now massive closures that will affect and hurt us all. The state is broke and has a deepening budget crisis that they can't fix. Private-public funding is supporting this implementation in the interest of a few, but not in everyone's interest. The big problem is nobody knows where all this money is coming from, yet they keep pushing it through with no plans and no funds for after they have it implemented. They're speculating that our federal government will give the stimulus monies and bail them out so they can implement it. Then they take away our recreational resources that help the economy and take more of our tax money. It will have a devastating negative cumulative effect on our local economy that will hurt all of us, including the city of Los Angeles, and the Port of Los Angeles is going to lose. Doesn't make sense to do this in hard times of an economic recession and the state not having a budget. But guess what? The following will happen to our local economy. Loss of 20,000 jobs, loss of $20 million in city tax revenue, loss of housing foreclosures, more cutbacks, loss of business, industry, commerce, revenues, trade revenues, and most important, loss of $100 million in our local economy. Senator Denise Ducheney and Senator Bob Dutton in the budget now are questioning publicly where all this money came from. We need an audit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tenon. Dr. Clyde Williams, followed by Daniel Wright, followed by Michael Hunt.
Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, CD 14. The Board of Water and Power passed the drought Tier 1 rate schedules. However, please request that the board at least revise or rescind the Tier 1 to allow individual appeals to the Tier 1 levels. Low income, Lifeline, and seniors will all have to reduce their flows by 15% or pay higher prices. They don't know that. They don't know how to do that. So notification is inappropriate. Now, if you have been conserving for the last 5 years, you're going to have to reduce your flows even more. My flows of 50 gallons per person per day have to be reduced to 43 gallons per person per day, whereas somebody with 200 gallons per person per day has to reduce it only to maybe 150. So we have a problem. There's no appeal process. I called the DWP yesterday, and they said there's no appeal. There's no way of finding out what your Tier 1 levels will be before they are imposed. So please request Board of Water and Power to reduce or rescind these tariffs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wright, followed by Michael Hunt, followed by Yvonne Michelle Autry.
Good morning, council members. Daniel Wright on behalf of the Friends of the Southwest Museum Coalition. Council members, today we submit for your review a copy of a portion of an interview of Jackie Autry from the December 14, 2008 issue of the Coachella Valley Desert Sun. When asked about the Autry Museum, Mrs. Autry states, quote, "We'd been talking about expansion," and that is an obvious reference to the massive expansion proposal before this city. And then blaming the economic downturn, Mrs. Autry says, quote, "With the economic environment, we've had to put it on temporary hold." This tells you that Autry does not have the funds necessary to build the expansion that's before the city after 6 years of trying to raise the money. In 2004, the Autry told the Southwest Museum Coalition that it would only solicit major donors and private foundations for Mrs. Autry's ego-driven expansion in Griffith Park. The Southwest Museum was relegated to the status of Cinderella in that the Autry said that only government funds would be solicited for it, if available, for the rehabilitation of its National Register historic building. Yesterday, I distributed to you an email of Autry CEO John Gray from October 2007 that revealed that major donors have expressed interest in donating to the restoration of the Southwest site. However, notice in that email that Mr. Gray wants to direct those funds to the LA Community College District to enable the completely unnecessary conversion of the Southwest campus to something less than a full museum exhibiting its collection. That is a breach of fiduciary duty. Mr. Gray's email suggests that there are major donors available and willing to donate to the restoration of the Southwest site. The vision of the Friends of the Southwest Museum could be supported by these major donors. That is a reasonable alternative for you to consider as this matter comes before you. Thank you.
Go ahead, pass it. Okay. Michael Hunt, followed by Yvonne Michelle Autry, and then Walter Bechtel.
Good morning, City Council. My name is Michael Hunt. I've been coming here for almost approximately 3 years now. When I come down here, I hate to hear sad things like the girl. I hope they don't catch the victim. I hope the victim turn himself in and do the right thing. It's a difference between doing the right thing and being caught. I hope he turns himself in, and I hope the family, really gets over it. But the reason why I'm down here, as of last month or 2 months ago, the jury trial awarded me $250,000. And the city attorney was responsible for the attorney fees. We tried to negotiate a settlement for the attorney fees that have saved the city $50,000. At this particular time, I have all the information here where we emailed the city and said, let's get this over with and let's get it off our desk and let's save the city some money. At this time, we're having a hard time. The current hours for Steve Rohde's bill is $550 an hour at 460 hours. If we have to go back to court to get that money, it will go up to $700 an hour. So we're really trying to mitigate this out and make everybody happy. Now, we can save the city $40,000 if everybody cooperate and get this over with. If not, it's going to end up costing the city another $80,000 or $90,000 in attorney costs that the judge is going to tell them that they have to pay anyway. So please help me out here. I'm going to submit this to Mr. Rosenthal and to Bernard Parks, who's in charge of the Budget Finance Committee. But if you guys want a copy, I'll email it to you guys. We need to save the city some money and get this over with and go on with our lives. Thank you. My name is Michael Hunt.
Yvonne Michelle Autry. Okay, Walter after Yvonne is Walter Bechtel, followed by Mort Allen.
Good morning. I appreciate you're all so very busy. I just urge you to please pay as much attention to the public comments as you do to those who are giving their presentations, because you do serve us, the public. I know that you're all busy with your respective informations, but I see Mr. Rosenthal and Mr. Reyes are usually much more attentive and also paying greater attention, so we appreciate that. Mr. Thank you, Oscar. Okay, what I'd like to say first and foremost is I'd like to draw attention to the continued profiling and incrimination of especially low-income residents of downtown, those that receive Section 8, and those who are affordable housing recipients in an effort to justify regentrification, especially to justify a lot of the illegal, unlawful detainers, illegal evictions, and the violations of the tenant habitability code and violation of the tenant habitability rights, again, in an effort to remove those who enjoy Section 8 and affordable housing status so that they can replace us with those that will pay market rate. We're being incriminated as crackheads, alcoholics, sex offenders, witches, alcoholics, people that are terrorists, gangbangers. This is not true. And it is by and large racial, but it is also a class, an effort to incriminate those who are still enjoying the affordable housing and low-income status. Also, what I'd like to draw attention to is the fact that we've been complaining about the Safer Cities Initiative as it stands with no response from the City Council or the Police Department. So we, again, stand opposed to the bilateral kind of dual, double standards. Safer Cities Initiative is benefiting the gentry. It's not benefiting the lower income or the middle or lower working classes here downtown who actually pre-existed and lived here and predated those who are moving in, who are spending much more money, they're generating more revenue, and so we object to this aristocracy. This is not an oligarchy, this is a democracy, buying for all the people, not just the rich.
Thank you. Mr. Bechtel, followed by Mort Allen, followed by Mr. Anthony.
Yes, thank you. Gee, this sure is apocryphal. I came in here and I told you about the same situation of being hit in a crosswalk. On January the 31st this year, I was hit in the crosswalk at the corner of 8th and Broadway at 12:35 a.m. I even gave the officers the license plate number. I don't know too much about criminal law, but I've been reading Penal Code Section 664. An attempted murder does not describe what instrument has to be used to attempt a murder with. You can use just about anything, including an automobile. When I called the LAPD, the officers that came out said to me, what do you need us to file a report for today, sir? And now you're having this guy, possibly the same person, going around killing other people, actually succeeding to kill people, not just attempted murder. And now it's culminated in this thing that happened last weekend, and he likes the weekends, I guess. I got the license plate number still here. I can tell it to you if you want to hear. AATX 203. It was a white Ford Taurus, or car, I think it's a Ford Taurus, a 2008 model. I can even describe the appearance of the person who was in back of the steering wheel. But for some reason, the LAPD does not want to file a report for an attempted murder. And this is the kind of thing that happens. You people don't really care. That's what the problem is.
Mr. Mort Allen.
Good morning. I'm both ashamed and embarrassed to have to come before you today. I want to know how many people here know what the Sixth Amendment to the United States Constitution is. Every person, be it a black USC football player, a white shrimp boat captain, Kobe Bryant, whoever, has a right to have the best defense attorney they can have when they are accused by government. To be the best defense attorney, you have to have been the best prosecutor. There have been a lot of things put out in the paper that a certain person is accused of been defending these people, which is a total violation of the Constitution. Now, our executive team went to Washington and got an opinion from the Justice Department, which I'd just like to read very fast. It's an interpretation of the job of city attorney. City attorney interprets the laws for the mayor, the city council, and all city departments. City attorney's office decides what laws are to be enforced and what laws are to be ignored. An independent city attorney guarantees that all branches of government obey the law for the benefit of the public and do not bend or abuse the law to promote special interests. Separation of powers is one of the fundamental principles of American democracy. A strong, independent city attorney is a vital force to the public interest in municipal government. I don't have to say any more than that, but I want to just mention two things. You've got a billboard ordinance coming up that should be held over until June 1st because it's another setup like the last one. The companies are planning to sue you people. It was a special written ordinance. The second thing is, I want you all, when you get home, to go to abcnightlynews.com and pull up the story from the other night that was an investigative story on our L.A. rape kits. According to them, $4.4 million of federal funds was given to our city 3 years ago, and it was diverted by the mayor to other uses. And they claim it's only the city of L.A. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Mr. Anthony? After Mr. Anthony, we will go out to the San Fernando Valley for Rick Nightingale, and then we'll come back for Terry Wilbur and Carrie Worth, Nicole Valencia.
Good morning, City Council. My condolences and regards to the family members and friends that were here earlier this morning. Listen up, folks, on Channel 35, you need to listen to this. Are you outraged yet? Were you paying attention to last week's council meetings? On Tuesday, an 84-year-old lady stood right here and told you she was being raped by the REAP program, the Rent Escrow program. Zuma has told you all about this program. What's happening here is that all 15 council members are gang raping these people with the REAP program. It's not just one single rape. It's a gang rape going on in our community. Zuma's brought it to the attention. He was told by council members that it's not going that bad. Listen, that is someone's mother out there that is having this done to her. We have to put a stop to this. You all are in charge of this. Put a stop to this. On Wednesday, we found out we lost $7 billion. Who's going to pay for that? City employees, you're on the handle for that one. You're going to have to put extra work in and put more pension funds towards that. On Friday, we had the Animal Service general manager here. What a fiasco that was. Listen, folks, these council members were vilifying this gentleman here. It wasn't his fault. They nominated him. They voted for him. If you need to put a stop to this, we need to start letting these council members know it's time they get their house in order. We have the power to do that. They work for us. Call 311, get all 15 council members' numbers, and start calling their offices. You are empowered to do that. You can do that. Let these people know we've had it. You have to stop. Get your house in order. We've had enough of all of this.
I'd like to go out to the San Fernando Valley for Mr. Rick Nightingale.
Yes, good morning, Rick Nightingale. My speech is like on values. People have to take, brought up with values, and it seems that they lost it. And through this crisis right now, maybe you people will get your values back a little bit. That I think the younger generation just hasn't been taught any values regarding paying bills and so forth, putting money away for savings and a rainy day and so forth. Regarding like Schwarzenegger, when he was elected, he turned around and vowed that he was going to lower things and do things. He had 5 things put on the ballot, and every one of you people turned around and voted every one of them down. So he came in with some values to turn around and get a balanced budget and so forth, and you people didn't want to do it. You voted it down. The city council is supposed to have a balanced budget, and nothing's being done about it. I really in my heart believe that these people do not think that they have a problem. For like Obama, all of a sudden all this money, the stimulus package, the heavens came down now, they're going to get money. It's like the school board. They were getting all this money when all these property values were going up. And if you people thought that they weren't going to drop at some period of time, boy, you're living in la-la land. But the problem is that you just don't understand it, and you don't put any money away for the rainy day. Everybody has these credit cards and so forth, and it seems like all the people do not want to put any money away for a rainy day, and a rainy day is here, and you can see it, and people are hurting. I really hope that you people learn by your mistakes. And when things get better, that you do stick with a budget and put so much away for it. But our council don't, and the state don't, because they keep spending and spending, and they just don't feel that they have to cut back because something's going to happen. And it's just not going to happen this way. And it's like the school teachers. They were getting a portion of the budget, and now they're crying because everybody's not paying the taxes and they haven't anymore. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Terry Wilbur?
Good morning, Council. How you doing? My name is Terry Wilbur, and I know I only got 1 minute on. I went to Milwaukee, and I found out that these cases with Arthur and by Perry and her organization, and furthermore, she goes around with 1267 and 69, where she put in documentation or gave them documentation of my boats and my ship. Now, you can ignore it, but the facts are. Councilman Perry is wrong for what she's doing. And I don't like her in Palmdale, in my homes, on my ranch in Palmdale, that I had the agent build for me and then stay there and utilize children. Now, the second thing, banks, financial, also with these, okay? Mexicans are paying. They come over here illegally, and they come over here and dilute every job there is. Now, your council also sent me some papers for one house that was on Hooper store that they murdered, okay? And it then turned around and talking about my television set. But yet we are building in television in their country. They kidnap their very own people for me not to own their land. I'm building, and I wish you would pass Miller's Beer. Trying to bring a Miller's out here, Walt Disney, that need to be out there in Lake LA. Excuse me. I just need one more second.
If you just finish your statement, go ahead.
Okay. And she had taken my land with Ordain of the 21st century. All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kelly Worth and Nicole Valencia? Okay, that would be our last public speaker card. On item number 18, Madam Clerk, Mr. Weissar has his questions answered. If we could open the roll on item number 18, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you. Next item we're going to go to, acknowledge Mr. Weiss. I believe it's item number 27.
Thank you, Madam President. And I'd like to ask Sarah Tofty from Human Rights Watch and anyone else who's part of the presentation to please come forward and have a seat. Colleagues,
excuse me, Mr. Weiss, we do have cards, so let us know if you want to open up any public comment at some point.
I think what Council President Garcetti suggested doing was having the presentation and the council discussion, and then at that point afterwards going to the cards so we can hear from these folks because they've been waiting all morning. Colleagues, you have on your desk this report which was prepared and released by Human Rights Watch yesterday about the DNA crisis, not just in the city of Los Angeles, but in cities throughout the county and at the county level as well. Yeah, please let them have a seat. It is an extraordinary report, and I can't remember in the 8 years that I've been here ever seeing a national group, certainly not one of the stature of Human Rights Watch, coming in and tackling an issue, certainly not an issue as complex and as important as the rape kit backlog. And I've never seen any outside group move the needle as much as Human Rights Watch has done here. Indeed, as I said yesterday, you didn't just move the needle, you broke the dial. And you are to be congratulated for that. They're going to make their report. My job and my purpose today is not to discuss the history. It is long, it is complicated, it's largely in this report, but to suggest to all of you that we have right now in our hands the ability, the opportunity to make a tremendous difference. Number one, we have the opportunity when the mayor presents his budget, and the mayor is committed to fully funding the plan that will resolve both the backlog and provide for real-time testing of DNA in the future. When the mayor presents his budget, we have the opportunity to pass that budget and make sure that we eliminate this problem at the LAPD and put the LAPD in a position so that it is poised to test rape kit evidence in real time in the future. That's opportunity number one. Opportunity number two is to make sure that the LAPD becomes on this issue what it is on every other issue, a role model for the nation, a role model of best practices. As Human Rights Watch has demonstrated, and as Ms. Tofty will probably discuss in a few moments, the problems at the LAPD are not limited to the LAPD. They're replicated on a broad scale at departments large, medium, and small. All those departments are looking for a best practices model. We have the opportunity, and Chief Beck and Chief Bratton are committed to ensuring that the LAPD takes that opportunity to turn the LAPD into a best practices model. Sarah Tofty.
Thank you, City Council members, for having us here today, and a special thanks to Councilmember Weiss. You have been championing this issue for years. You were the first elected official, I believe, out there on this issue years ago. We admire your leadership on this, and any progress is made couldn't have happened without you. So, thank you. My name is Sarah Tofty. I'm with Human Rights Watch, a New York-based international human rights group. We have offices in Los Angeles as well. Two of our greatest supporters in the area, Sherry Limon and Mary Garvey, are up here with me. They're going to talk a little bit about, after I'm done speaking, just from their perspective, what our report findings means to them as constituents in Los Angeles, your constituents. We released a report yesterday specifically on the rape kit backlog in Los Angeles. As far as we know, Los Angeles County has the largest number of untested rape kits in the country. That's not to say there may be other cities that have a bigger problem, we just haven't uncovered it yet. And in the last year or so, we came to Los Angeles, and through numerous interviews with public officials, through public records requests, we were able to figure out exactly how many untested rape kits there are in the county. It's been pretty well publicized that the LAPD has an issue, thousands of kits in their backlog. The Sheriff's Department revealed a few months ago they had thousands of untested kits in their backlog, and we were able, through public records requests, to get data from the 47 other cities in Los Angeles County that have their own police storage facilities and whose untested rape kits had thus far been unknown. So in total, we estimate that Los Angeles County has about roughly 12,000, close to 12,700 untested rape kits in the county. As Councilmember Weiss said, many of you, if you've been paying attention to the news, know about the long history, in particular with the LAPD, of trying to grapple with this issue. And they're trying to take steps to move this issue forward. You know, what we want to see and what we need to see from the City Council is support both for the budgetary requests that the LAPD are going to make to you regarding the resources they're going to need to increase their crime lab capacity, to outsource their untested rape kits. But we also need to see from you increased oversight on this issue. Public safety has been doing a fantastic job of having the LAPD come and report to them roughly once a week, but we want to see full council reports on this issue. Having the full council here, asking the LAPD to come to the full council at least once a month and give an update on the progress they're making. We want to see this backlog eliminated in 2 years. Again, but in order to do that, they're going to need resources, and I think there's going to need to be some oversight to make sure that from month to month, the LAPD is on track to eliminate their backlog. I want to just give an example for, I'm sure everyone here supports testing of every booked rape kit, supports testing of the backlog, but I want to give a powerful example of a jurisdiction when they eliminated their backlog, what it meant to that jurisdiction and to its citizens. New York City in 1999 had 17,000 untested rape kits in police storage facilities. And when they discovered this, they made a commitment to testing every rape kit in their backlog and testing every future booked rape kit. And they were going to eliminate their backlog in 2003. They not only eliminated their backlog, but they did build up the capacity they needed to test every booked rape kit. And there were some doubters in law enforcement, some doubters on city council that they needed to test every booked rape kit. What they found when they did that is they started getting investigative leads they had never expected before. They not only identified perpetrators in unsolved cases where the suspect was unknown to the victim, they were able to connect crime scene evidence from rape cases so that they could figure out that individuals had been serial acquaintance rapists. Acquaintance rape can be a very difficult crime sometimes to move forward in the criminal justice system, but when they connected crime scenes together and established a pattern of the rapist, they moved the cases forward. They were also able, when they tested evidence, there's so much you can find out from the rape kit evidence, they were able to confirm the sort of victim's story and discredit the offender's story of the version of events. And what you saw in New York City were real results, real justice for rape victims. In 2003, the year that they finished testing their backlog and had already begun testing every booked rape kit, their arrest rate for rape skyrocketed. It was roughly the same rate as it is for the LAPD today in 2003, roughly 25%, 30% arrest rate for rape. In New York now, that arrest rate is between 70 and 80%. It's a huge difference. Prosecution rates skyrocketed as well, and dismissal rates were down because you hope that when prosecutors decide to bring the cases forward, they were getting more accurate cases, more accurate convictions. New York also had one exoneration after testing their rape kit backlog, so that's an important point as well. You know, we urge you, we know that you've been hearing from the media, you've been hearing about this issue for a year, and it may seem like old news, but the fact is that there are still thousands of untested rape kits sitting in the LAPD police storage facility, and it's not going to go away, and they are not going to get tested until all of you here offer both budgetary support and offer some sort of oversight. Checking in, making sure the LAPD have to come to you and account for how they're doing in terms of their commitment to eliminate the backlog and keep it eliminated. And for us, it's not just about testing every rape kit. We want to see that happen. But what we also need to see is oversight to make sure that every profile that's obtained gets put into the DNA data bank. Every cold hit that comes from the data bank is communicated to the right investigators, and every case where it's possible, at least a minimal amount of investigation is done. And down the road, that's going to require, we would predict more investigating officers to make sure that testing the kits doesn't just end with the test, that it turns into, the results you get turns into real justice for rape victims. And, I know mostly we talk about this issue in terms of numbers and statistics, but, I had the opportunity to go into the storage facilities where the rape kits are located, and you look at the thousands and thousands of kits, and you realize that every kit in there doesn't just contain DNA evidence from a rape victim. It contains the story of a woman or a child or a man who came forward to report their rape and went to the police seeking justice and are still looking for justice. And we have the opportunity, you have the opportunity to give those victims justice by making sure that in this current budget, what the LAPD asks for and needs in terms of this issue is given to them, and then making sure that you're exercising sufficient oversight so that you guys can be on track and can say in 2 years that not only have you eliminated the rape kit backlog, but you are a regional and a national model on this issue, so that the next jurisdiction I look at, I can stop using just New York as an example, and I can start talking about how the LAPD turned things around and became a national model for how you deal with testing of rape kits and justice for rape victims. So I thank you for your time. I'm going to allow Mary and Sherry to say a few words. And if you have any questions, of course I'm happy to take them.
Hi, my name is Mary Garvey. I am a resident of Pacific Palisades. I've been a supporter of Human Rights Watch for well over 10 years. I have to say that I've been educated on women's issues, and I have not been so shocked with my work with Human Rights Watch in recognizing and learning from Sarah about the backlog of rape kits in this city and this county. This is the 21st century, and this is Los Angeles. We ought to be affording protection to our citizens, whether they're women, children, black, white, Hispanic, many, many different races that come together in this city. And I really, really urge the City Council to approve this budget. This is not just a public safety issue. This really is a human rights issue. And think about your daughters, think about your sons, think about family members. This is something you would want their kids to be tested and to find out who their perpetrators are. Not testing this information really sets this city back, way back on a national scale, and frankly, I find it embarrassing as a citizen of this city that the city of New York will stand up and take care of the problem, and without the leadership of people like Jack Weiss, this city is falling behind, and I really urge you people to step forward and approve this budget and make sure that it goes forward. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sherry Leinwand, and I'm a co-chair of the California Committee South of Human Rights Watch. You may not know, but Human Rights Watch actually has many volunteers and supporters throughout Los Angeles City. I also want to acknowledge that Patty Giggins and many supporters and volunteers of Peace Over Violence are in the audience behind us today, as are members from NOW. I must say that when I first visited the Rape Crisis Center and saw the process that a victim has to go through in order to have a rape kit prepared and processed, it can take 4 to 6 hours. It is highly invasive, and yet victims will come forward and have that done. Many of them children. And to learn that those kits then sit in lockers and are never tested is just incomprehensible to me. I think we thought at Human Rights Watch, when this issue was identified, that there would be leadership and the problem would be solved and this report would not have to be issued. And yet, here we are, almost a year and a half after it was first reported in the Los Angeles Times, and we still do not have a solution. So I want to again urge the City Council, one, to make sure that there are sufficient resources in the budget to take care of the backlog and to keep us current, and two, to make sure the Los Angeles Police Department is compelled to report to the full City Council on a regular basis as to the progress they're making. And I thank you so much for your time and attention letting us come to speak to you today.
Mr. Weiss, we have speakers on the queue.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Tofty, I want to give you a moment to just go through those key 3 recommendations. Hold my time, please.
Well, 3 things we want to happen with the untested rape kits in the LAPD. One, we want to see within 2 years every kit that's in the backlog, the current backlog, be tested. And we want to see the City Council give the LAPD the resources they need to do that. 2, we want to see every future booked rape kit tested within a reasonable amount of time. Ideally, it would be 30 to 60 days. That's roughly the time for a turnaround in New York. But want to see every kit, future kit tested, and we want to see City Council budgetary support for that. And 3, we want to make sure, with oversight from the Council, that the LAPD is meeting the standards of the California Sexual Assault Victims DNA Bill of Rights, which requires victims whose kits have not been opened within 2 years to be informed of the status of their kit. Because I think one of the biggest gaps in this whole process is so many victims have no idea the status of their rape kit, the status of their investigation, and whether their kit is in a backlog or not. And all of these things will require oversight and budgetary support from the City Council.
And can you describe for us the working relationship that you've established with Chief Beck, Yvette Sanchez-Owens, and the folks at the Crime Lab, and your participation on Chief Beck's task force?
We have had, I think, I don't know, Chief Beck can disagree, a good working relationship. It has been, Human Rights Watch isn't always used to getting to have access to, such open access to the government in this way. And I think you have to certainly give credit where credit is due. The LAPD has conducted one of the most detailed audits I think the most detailed audit. Both the LAPD and the LASD have the most detailed audits of their rape kit backlog. They've been very open with us and transparent with us about the issue. They have been always agreed to meet with us whenever we've asked to meet with them. And the dialogue has been unlike anything I've ever gotten to have before with government officials, especially those that we're critiquing. So I think it's been, I hope, a terrific working relationship. And I appreciate the access. I hope that it can push the city forward with reforms that we are advocating for.
And finally, on your first 2 recommendations, one is clear the backlog, the second is provide for what I call real-time testing. I've always maintained that it's important for people to understand that the problem is not just, quote-unquote, the backlog. The backlog is something that we will deal with monetarily through outsourcing. But the real-time testing requires us to hire permanent staffing at the Crime Lab, a full complement of criminalists to fully fit and equip that lab. I want to give you a moment to talk about just why it's important to keep those 2 issues separate, the backlog on the one hand and the Crime Lab on the other.
Sure. When people sort of talk about a backlog, sometimes there can be sort of 2 definitions of that. There's the issue of the kits that were sitting in police storage facilities in the LAPD that never got requested for testing, that never even got sent to the Crime Lab. And then there's the issue of the kits that get sent to the Crime Lab. Sometimes they have to wait around for quite a while before they can get tested, and that delay can have a significant effect on bringing justice to rape victims as well and getting a perpetrator off the street. So it is about eliminating what is sort of in the backlog that was discovered in the LAPD's police storage facilities, but eliminating that backlog alone is just not enough. If you don't give the LAPD the resources they need in-house, if you don't help them build up their Crime Lab capacity, then the backlog is just going to build right back up again. And so we know that the LAPD is committed to testing every booked rape kit here on out, but that is going to take more resources than they currently have. And so a lot of this is about building up Crime Lab capacity, building up, we think, also, police capacity to investigate these cases. And so that's the kind of investment that's going to need to be made into this issue if you're going to not just eliminate the backlog, but keep it eliminated forever.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. First speaker with Mr. Garcetti, followed by Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, Sarah, and thank you to the entire board, of which I'm still a member, and very proud to be. And for all the community activists that have been a part of this as well, thank you for continuing not only to shine the light here, but to shine the light. We have such a dysfunctional set of government in which we have 88 cities and a county, and that's supposed to act coherently. And it's rare that any organization actually goes in and goes city by city through LA County in such a comprehensive way. And I think if we do this right, LA City, as Mr. Weiss has pointed out, can be an example for all of our neighboring cities as well, even though they're much smaller, of how to do this. But I wanted, before asking Human Rights Watch any other questions, and I want to thank Jack, because Jack has this all gets very politicized, and it shouldn't. Jack has been the lead on this. A number of people in this horseshoe have also been pushing for some time, and I think you're right that credit where credit is due, and LAPD does the right thing, and I'm very pleased the direction that they're heading, but I also know that it's easy, sometimes advocates will say, give them more money. And we've grown LAPD considerably and asked many things of them over the last 5 or 6 years. And given, I know when Ms. Hahn was on the budget committee with me and others, we get very direct instructions about what to do with a growing budget and not micromanaging that, saying, okay, we'll take $300,000, you have to spend it on DNA, but here's tens of millions of new dollars, and we have the expectation these DNA kits will be taken care of, and that hasn't happened. So I'm glad this year Ms. Gruhl and Mr. Weiss and I found some money to expand that out, but as we know, we're facing a $500 million deficit and a $1 billion deficit the year after that in LA City. So part of our message is to underscore with LAPD, you have the resources of the largest department to figure out a way to do this and to tell us what are lesser priorities, because this council and this policymaking body has said this is the highest priority we have. So I was just wondering, Chief Beck, who's done, I think, a great job, if you could come forward and react, and some of you can stay if you'd like, just one seat for Chief Beck, or actually there's enough seats, everybody can stay around. What is your reaction to the report, and what suggestions in it, are we not yet compliant with, and where do you see, changes that have occurred that are addressed perhaps towards other cities that LAPD has taken the lead on now? Could you give us some of your impressions?
Well, first I'd like to thank Sarah and Human Rights Watch for the focus that they bring to this issue. Really, it's never fun to be examined, as Sarah pointed out from a government perspective, but this is an issue that its time has come, and I'm lucky enough or unfortunate enough, depending on how you look at it, to be the one that is holding the bag on this, and I will deliver. I think that we've taken the steps that we needed to. About a little over a year ago, the chief committed to testing all rape kits. That is a huge piece, and one of the pieces that led to the backlog as it exists. Because if you leave,
took us many years to get there.
If you leave discretion as far as the testing procedure goes, then Scientific Investigation Division can't do its priorities, and they're unable to. They think they're meeting their standard by testing what the detective asked for. We've changed the standard, and now we have to change the way that we look at this. So Sarah's right, and we've made that move, and now we're faced with what is a very difficult problem. Councilmember Weiss is exactly right. We have to do this, and Sarah's exactly right. We have to do this on two prongs. We have to increase our capacity so that we can handle everything that comes in the front door, and we have to spend our way out of the backlog. Right now, we're moving along very well, and since I've taken over the responsibility for the labs in about October, we've outsourced about 1,600 rape kits, more than any other municipality that I know of in the United States. We have reduced the backlog significantly. We've done a comprehensive audit of what exactly the backlog means, so that I can meet your goal of spending the money wisely. And we are going to ask for more money in the budget next year to test rape kits. We are not only asking from the city, but we're asking for private donations, and we're actively seeking grants. So I agree with Sarah's recommendations. I think we can get out of this in 2 years if we continue our focus. I think that we can meet our victim notification mandate. We're actively producing a real-time database now that won't just be a property management database, but will be a statute, victim notification, case status database. That Councilmember Weiss is getting ready to help us on. We will meet our obligation on this.
So just on that, since you brought up the private outsourcing, so the December 2008 communication from the department that the police department currently has no need for additional private lab contractors to one of the contractors, does that not reflect the department's attitude towards outsourcing right now?
Well, with outsourcing, there's a couple of issues, and I hate to answer a question the long way like this, but with outsourcing, there's a couple of things. First, the outsource is it doesn't deliver a total product.
Right.
When it comes back to us, right now we have 7 criminalists or criminalist assistants that deal nothing else but with the kits that come back from Bodie and Cellmark, our two primary vendors. Bodie and Cellmark, from our discussions with them, are at their maximum. We are on, and given the money that we have for this fiscal year, we are on target to exactly spend it by the end of the fiscal year. So I'm comfortable with what we're outsourcing now, which is about 100, 125 a week.
And the hiring of the new criminalists, has that occurred now? Is that fully up with the new funding that we had?
Right now, I think we have 3 positions that are funded but unhired, and they're in the process of doing that. That'll give us.
What's the timeline for that? Of getting them up and running?
We'll be done with that by the fiscal year. We had a couple that dropped out. We had hired, but they dropped out. So we will meet our obligation of hiring the 16 additional that the council funded. Next year, we're going to be asking for an additional 26, and that will bring us up to a capacity that will just about put us where we need to be.
Yeah, my understanding is, having worked on that solution, that funding was for this fiscal year. So if we don't hire them by the end of the fiscal year, is the plan to roll that money over into the coming year? I mean, our expectation was they would be hired this fiscal year.
And they will be. They will be.
But by the end, I mean, if we hire them, let's say June, 26th, that's 5 days worth of the fiscal year that we're actually, that money that we expected, I think, for, was it 5 or 6 months of funding, I think.
Right. And we have done our outreach. We've hired the vast majority of them. We had a couple that fell out of the process, and we're going to hire. We will hire the people that you wanted us to.
On the savings there, obviously, for the rollover, if we can work with the CLA and CAO to make sure that gets rolled over, and any new hires that you're going to be making, just to keep the accounting tight there as well. When you said that the commitment to have them all tested, is there a date attached to that right now? Roughly?
Well, I think that I can get it done within 2 years, but it depends on funding. I mean,
2 years from today?
2 years. Yeah, I think that we can get it done by the end of the next fiscal year, which is a little under 2 years.
So sometime around the end of June 2010.
I hope so. If funding continues and hiring continues and we keep moving on along where lines we're moving.
If you don't have the resources, and again, it's a combination. It will require, and I'll say this as clearly as I can for the PD, it will require some creativity inside the department when we're looking at savings from all departments, probably a combination of funding from within as well as potential new allocation here. We know that all departments are being asked to save, anywhere from 8 to, in some cases, probably 20%. We're talking layoffs and other things. So I just say that to the public for the context, and we believe that we can work with PD in helping. We don't want to micromanage, but we do want to say, okay, there's certain things PD does maybe that are less important in this next couple of years to make sure that gets hired up, so you can find some resources inside the department as well as what we'll always scramble and look for outside as well. So I think that reflects probably our Budget and Finance Committee's desires as well. So I don't want to hold you to an exact date, but I do think that it's incumbent on us to know what is a rough date that we can expect that backlog to be done. The second part of the promise, though, moving forward, then, will we also be at no longer accumulating any backlog if we have that capacity, or will we still be having a problem of building up a backlog as we test those that are there today?
If we complete our hiring along the lines of the plan that Jack has outlined and that we've discussed in this chamber, then I think that we will be absent a huge increase in our caseload, which we have not been seeing. We've seen a reduction, so that's obviously I can't predict the future, but as all things continue, if things continue along the lines that of our universe right now, then we will be able to handle what comes in the front door. By the end of 2 years. Now, Sarah got that 18-month, 2 years from us. That's what I told her that I thought we could do. And this is, I don't pick numbers that give me a comfort zone. This very much depends on political will. It depends on this body, supporting me. I have no issue, as everybody in here knows, reporting to this body and telling you exactly what we're doing, and I'll do that as much or as little as you like. But it's important that everybody understands that this is very much a problem that the city has to solve. I mean, Charlie Beck is responsible for it, and if I don't deliver, then I don't deliver, and you can do with me what you will. But This is not solely a police department issue. We have a lot of things that need to come into focus. This is, rape kits are the bellwether on this. Rape kits are the item that draws public and political interest. But DNA is the future of law enforcement. I mean, if we don't build this lab capacity, then we will never get this city to a place that it needs to be in solving crime.
That's right.
I can't tell you how there will be some very high-profile cases that come out in the next couple of weeks that DNA has reached back in time and solved. And this is a huge deal for the city of Los Angeles and for law enforcement. So, I want to do this for rape victims, but I also want to do it for every victim because DNA is the future.
And I'm out of time, so I'll close on this. I happen to be a very big fan of Charlie Beck, so I have a lot of faith in you. And I mean that. I mean, it's a political will question, but I don't want to just ping-pong it back. It's also a managerial will question as well.
I got
and PD, part of, we're the elected officials, so we're willing to take those slings and arrows, and I think, in many cases those are deserved. Also, when we've said very clearly this is the policy of the city, and we have a $2 billion entity that can't find a couple $100,000, and we have to go and find that, that's also, we want to make sure it's a managerial will issue and a political will issue, and we'll take our 50%, you take your 50%, and we'll hopefully get this together. And the last point that I might suggest to Human Rights Watch is, because this is a tough area in terms of the geography, I might suggest that if you want to use these chambers, we could invite the 47 other police departments and elected officials from those cities, see who comes here, and have, some sort of a forum or a seminar on what are people doing to get to the solution. I think in that case, the leadership that you've shown, Chief Beck, and what Councilmember Weiss has done as chair and as bird dogging on this issue, we could have them be here, and we could become a place that really takes something that is a great tragedy over many years, turn it into a victory, but also as a place that is the model, that is the solutions place, that is the new New York, if you will, right here for the West Coast and certainly in LA County. So it's an open offer for you if you'd like to do that.
Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you, Mr. Zine, and I want to thank the Human Rights Watch. I think as indicated in the past, a report, even though a discussion has occurred, a report that has something like this, that talks about testing justice, talks about the importance of going back to address the issue of the backlog, from an audit from the City Controller's Office. All of that helps push something that we have been talking about, but it makes it real. And it's unfortunate sometimes that it takes that to get action on a number of items. And so I want to thank the Human Rights Watch, and I know that the Controller's Office is beginning to do a follow-up audit to the audit that they did, and in a few months I'll be on the other side pushing that as well and working with the council to ensure that there's enough dollars. And I think the points made earlier on the budget was one is Mr. Weiss and Mr. Garcetti and I in both the last two budgets provided some position authorities, and that's what the department wanted, but it wasn't enough. And what we assume as we sit here for hours in the budget committee with Mr. Parks as well, we talk about these items, and we're only as good as the information provided to us. And again, that's why this document is so helpful to us. Charlie Beck, I'll add as well, is an individual who will tell you like it is, and will also work very hard to improve. And we had a chance, not to go to Piper Tech, but across the street one afternoon to look in those freezers. And it was just a little bit of the numbers that we saw. And I know Mr. Weiss had explained to me when he went to the ones over at Piper Tech, and I think they have a picture here. I mean, these are freezers that are thousands, as you indicate. And so I wanted to start with the fact that this is an incredibly important issue, and one in which I feel very personal about as well. And as a member of the Budget Committee and as soon-to-be controller, the importance of carrying that message on. With that, and I'm going to turn to Charlie, sorry. Charlie, when you talk about, as indicated, 18 months to 2 years, and I think one of the requests that has been made by all of the speakers was the importance of coming to the full body as well. Information is power, as we talk about, and have a goal of how many, I don't know if you do per month or every few months, and have the report back. I think it was a suggestion by you all, and I would ask that we maybe amend the report to say that we would like to have it come to the City Council every 6 months with a status report. But to be able to say, because what happens with that, and we see that in other committees, which is all of a sudden, 6 months from now, you will say, you know what, we haven't been able to hire fast enough, we haven't been able, and that may not necessarily be your fault, there'll be other reasons why. The money hasn't come through, we didn't get our grants. The ability to have this discussion again, because if it gets pushed off, and not that the department's not doing it, but having a public discussion allows us to move it forward. And so I think, I don't think I'll see any disagreement from you, hopefully, Charlie, that we would do that.
No, we'd be more than glad to do that, and as, yeah, we'd be more than glad to do that.
Okay. So just a couple of quick questions. The percentage, just for the public's knowledge, on the backlog versus real time, how are you prioritizing that? So if someone is unfortunately a victim of rape this weekend, is that ahead of the line? Does that get immediately that DNA is tested? And how do you relate that to those that are contract versus those that are going to be done here in the city of Los Angeles?
You know, we've done it on a couple of levels. For the real-time kits, a crime that is particularly where the identification of the suspect is an issue, goes immediately to the front of the line. We test all of the incoming kits as quickly as we can, using our existing staff. Now, we're not staffed to the level where we can test everything that comes in the front door right now. We can pretty much test all the ones where suspect ID is an issue, where there is an open case that requires the DNA to move it forward. Some of the fresh cases do go into the backlog because we are not staffed at capacity to handle everything that comes in the front door. But we have a prioritization system, or a system which is a two-tier system based not only on the detective that's handling the case, but based on detectives that work directly for me in Robbery Homicide Division, who are more objective to do the screening process. So I think that given the staff that we have right now, and given their capacity, and given that we have to use some of them to enter into CODIS the kits that come back from the labs, we're doing it as smartly as I know how to do it right now with the incoming kits. I don't know if that got exactly where you want to go or not.
No, it does. But is it possible for you to be able to provide to this council, and as we go through the 6 months, that says, here's our plan for
Absolutely.
that period of time,
Absolutely.
and that we can hold you accountable. You can hold us accountable as well to make sure that the money has come forward. And I think we stood, I can't remember how many months ago, but with the mayor after the audit came out and the Human Rights Watch report was being drafted and many of the information coming out. I feel like it's already been released. When I saw it said March 2009, I thought, wait, I thought it already was released because the facts and figures you provided to us earlier to help in that. So
we can absolutely do that. As a matter of fact, that's what you're asking from me is exactly what I asked from my folks to give to me. So this is not this doesn't require any different work than what we're already doing. Just a report from me to you.
And I think that where we stood and said we're going to commit, even in a tight budget year, and it's even gotten tighter that we're going to do this, it's important to still commit to that. And we will be, as we ask the departments, and I will end with this because I know I'm over time a little bit, but I know when departments come back on budget, and all the departments that are listening, when you say cut, and they come back with those things that they know we are going to kick and scream and say, no, how dare you do that. One of them was crossing guards, and, so understand that when the budget is coming forward and we're talking in front of budget committee in those hours, and we ask departments to cut their budgets, this is one piece that we think needs to stay in place.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. You heard us, and I think for you, I think you're probably pleased about that that you'll have those resources. And again, over time, I would assume after you've gone through the backlog and you have the prioritization, that it's going to be a much easier and probably less time-consuming process, and these individuals be used for other purposes as well.
It would have to be easier.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to close by thank you, and that this will not be the last time that we will have you come before us, that I think, will get both Mr. Garcetti and Mr. Weiss to say, yes, come back to City Council every 6 months by the department. That will be part of what we will adopt today, and look forward to working with you as we come back. And Charlie, when the second part of this audit will come forward to see what kind of progress we've made and to work together to implement those changes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Controller DeBeeson. Mr. Rosenbaum.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'm very embarrassed and upset that we're sitting here today discussing this. There should be no backlogs on any rape kits, and a rape kit should be dealt with immediately. Let me ask you, why hasn't Bratton, who's been our chief for 5 years, in his $1.3 billion budget, taken care of something that I consider baseline criminal research and work? Why have we been sitting here talking about it when we should have resolved this a long time ago? Explain.
Well, I think that you have to understand that we've changed the definition of the problem in the last year.
What do you mean?
I mean that we have committed to testing all rape kits up until...
Well, you should test all rape kits.
And I agree with you.
So why haven't we?
Because up until about a year ago, that was not our commitment. Our commitment was to test rape kits as requested by detectives, which, fortunately or unfortunately, is industry standard for law enforcement. Now, the Sheriff's Department and LAPD have changed the way we look at this problem. And because of that, we have inherited a huge backlog.
Explain to me the way you guys have now changed the way you look at a problem that, to me, should not be a problem here today.
Well, as I said, in the past, before the chief committed to testing all rape kits, kits were tested based on requests by detectives. Now, as Sarah so eloquently put, that is not the best way to do this. Hence, we have changed the way that we look at what our backlog is, and now have inherited this huge backlog, which we are not staffed to test. So we're, we agree. I mean, you and I have no argument on this.
I mean, I don't want to make this a council issue, because it's been a no-brainer for me since the day I came on this council to hear us talk about rape kits that should have been acted on as part of the $1.3 billion budget. Shall I quote you an LA Times piece of yesterday that more than 115 of these officers, able-bodied or sitting in civilian jobs that should be out in the street? Could we not reorganize our $1.3 billion, have done it by now? I know that's over with, but you said 26 new positions by 2010, and it'll be a non-issue. Is that right?
I think that will handle our incoming kits.
Do we have to have more money from our budget, or can we take these sworn officers, put them out in the street where they belong, hire civilians to do it, and be more efficient in the police department and get this job done? This is a job that our chief, who came from New York, who came here 5 years ago, so he decided that we weren't going to do this a couple of years ago, and now, because of political pressure, we're doing it. Why are we in this spot today? That's what I want to know.
Well, I think I talked about that. How we got to this spot is
How
that
did we get here?
Well, we initially, when the criteria was not to test all kits, which I don't agree with, we were at capacity, and we had a lab that could test what was coming in based on detective requests. Now that we've changed that, our lab is no longer equipped to handle what is our new mandate, which is to test all kits. Now, the argument can be, why didn't we decide to test all kits sooner? I can't address that. All I can address is how we're moving forward. And how I'm moving forward is with this mandate to test all kits. And we will do them within a priority scheme within that universe, but we will test all kits. In order to do that, I'm going to have to increase lab capacity, which we need to do anyway, because I need to test your property crimes. I need to test, we need to be able to use DNA not just as a last-ditch effort. It needs to be in every criminal investigation.
Isn't it basic police work?
Well, it is basic police work 2009.
Right.
1999 it wasn't. So, this is an evolving science, an evolving profession, and we need to get in sync in this evolution. And yes, there's been these stutter steps going on. We're committed to it now. I understand the importance. I can't fix what hasn't happened in the past. I can only move forward, and moving forward, I'm committed. I've got a good roadmap. I got good partners. We're going to fix this.
Okay, I'm very happy to hear that because I don't want to have this discussion again. And I want us to make this one of our priorities in our budget when we talk about police activity. It should be part of the job. And I'm insulted and upset that somebody had a criteria that didn't test these kits. They should have tested the kits. So we're over that. Yes. But going forward now, I don't think there's a council member around this horseshoe who doesn't agree with me that these kits are part of basic police work, should be done now. In fact, I'd take some of these civilians and put them in jobs where we have cops sitting there, put the cops back on the street, where 70% of that job by a civilian, cost-wise, is cheaper. And we have 115 officers who are able-bodied, sitting at desks. Put them in the field, hire these civilians, redo your budget, the $1.3 billion, find the monies, hire those 26 people, and let's get this issue off the board going forward. I'm on the Budget Committee, and if I see it come up again, I'm not going to be happy. I consider it basic police work to do this, and it should have been done. And now I'm delighted that we're all in unison in getting it done. Human Rights Watch, I love you. I've known you for years. You're great. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. LaBonge.
Thank you very much, and I thank all those who came today to express this and to continue effort and fight. I just want to direct some things to Chief Beck, and thank you, Chief Beck. Mr. Rosendahl, thank you for your passion. Mr. Weiss, for your leadership. Could you add the word evidence, untested rape kits evidence? I'm just saying you put the word evidence in there and it drives it more. So, members, I think one of the challenges we have, because there's all kinds of crises, but unless you put a driving verb, and it's not a verb, I think. I got a C in English, so whatever it is.
City schools?
Yeah, city, but I'm all right. I made it here. Janice Hahn, would you support me? Can we get the word evidence, untested rape kits evidence? I think of a first aid kit, right? It's sitting on a shelf. We know this is real live time. So if we could ask the police department to study the way to put evidence, that word and that action, untested rape kits evidence. Also, I like what Mr. Garcetti said about the other cities. What are some of the best other cities in the county, and what are some of the most challenged in trying to respond to the needs of people who are victims of crime? Hold my time.
Well, I think that some of the best cities in the county,
like how does Pasadena, Long Beach? Is there big cities?
I can tell you the ones. I'll tell you what I'll do. Okay. I'll tell you the ones I think are doing a good job, and then you can do the math or however you want. I think Manhattan Beach has a good system. I've been to Orange County, and I know that's not in LA County, obviously, but Orange County Labs are good. Both of them have an advantage over us in that they have less to deal with and more to deal with it with. But I meet with all of LA County through the DA's office every month on a DNA task force. We go through best practices in all the cities. Some of the cities that have done very well are the small cities that have funded their own criminalist. And one criminalist can handle a small city. Unfortunately, you have about 60 of them, and they can't handle the city of Los Angeles. So, that's kind of the issue, is that the cities that have the best handle on it in LA County, and I know that Sarah has talked about New York and they've done a really good job with their labs, and they're changing the way they do it, and they are not a small city. So, there's a couple of models.
I don't want to lose my time right here. LA State College, Cal State LA, LA Sheriff's Office, LAPD. How's that working? Hold my time, please, Maria. Thank you.
You're talking about the labs. Actually, that works very well. Many people walk right off that campus and right into our labs. As you know, there's a tremendous training program there. I think that.
So it's positive.
Yeah, it's a positive thing. Yeah, I'm good with that. I think eventually we may need to look at that lab and see how it's structured and think about, this is a long-term thing,
right?
And think about maybe a different structure, but that's something that we can talk about in a couple of years.
I know we're talking to some detectives. People watch television and they think all LAPD, CSI, and all that technology. We're not there yet, but the public is expecting that, so we should move in that direction somehow. The last thing I wanted to say, you have reserves in the LAPD. but you also have specialist reserves, correct?
Yes.
Is there an opportunity to take the passion that people have who fight for this issue to become specialist reserve to help advance the cause of these very, challenging, untested rape kit evidence so it could further the result to the victim and also possibly seek justice?
And that is
specialist reserves, meaning it would be recruiting people who, in our dynamics now, people have a variety of time, whatever it is, but it's not just LAPD officers in reserve and uniform. You have specialist reserve. Is that correct?
Yes, we do, and that is an avenue that we could look at. I must say that the people in this room, even though they're not specialist reserves, have spent a lot of time with me on our DNA task force and in conversations with me to educate me. I'm a old policeman. I see things from my point of view.
Right.
Fortunately, I'm smart enough, barely, to listen to other folks who have another point of view, and can help open my thinking on this issue. And so they're not specialist reserves, but I have 30 or 40 people that met with me on the DNA task force, went through all of our issues, and are continuing the discussion. So it's really important what you're saying about bringing the public in, and I think we're trying to do that, but I'll look specifically at the specialist
If you look at that, Charlie,
Maybe I find a criminalist that wants to do
Cal
some
State
case
LA, the future too. Let us know about because the future is here tomorrow, and we've got a plan for it. And look at adding the word evidence somehow, so because people would see that they're sitting on the, on
Well, it
the
is
shelf.
evidence.
What a horrible thing.
It is evidence.
Thank you,
and
Mr. Zion.
keep it
Thank you, Mr. LeBon.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Chief. You wouldn't be a chief if you weren't smart, by the way. I want to remind you of that, sir.
I thought it was seniority. That's what you said.
Mr. Carter.
Thank you very much. Can you remind us again what the projected budget would be for us to get back on track?
Well, the continued hiring, which is the 26 positions, and I don't have the total budget figure for that. It's in our budget, and I can get it to you, the total budget figure for the 26 positions. And then continued funding for the outsourcing, and I think our request for next year's budget is 2.1.
Okay, so it's in the several $1 million range.
Oh, it is in the multiple millions, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And now, can you remind us is there any kind of statute on the or shelf life of these particular rape kits in general when it comes to being able to test them appropriately and then for them to keep their integrity so that you can have positive results?
So far, the integrity in frozen storage has been good. We haven't lost any due to our storage conditions. We will end up looking at dry storage for tested kits, but this body will hear about that well before we do it, and we are not doing that yet. But that would enable us, and as the testing technology goes forward, that would enable us to do long-term, translate forever, storage of kits after they've been tested to meet some of the state guidelines for exculpatory evidence, for people that have been convicted and their appeals have not yet run. So we're doing well on that. Statute issues, obviously statute is different in every case because there are factors that can affect the crime of rape that increase the statute, but the basic statute is 10 years.
So 10 years is the basic statute?
The basic statute.
Okay. So some of the rape kits that are backlogged, how old are the oldest ones in this 12,000-ish, 10-plus thousand range of kits?
We have about 118 kits that are over 10 years that are open cases, about.
Okay. All right, so the vast majority of them hopefully are not at risk of...
No, and right now we have no cases pending the 10-year statute, and literally no cases pending the 2-year victim notification statute. So, okay. That's part of how we're doing our outsourcing, that's part of how we're doing our in-house testing, and that's part of the database that we're developing that will keep. We won't have to do these intensive hand counts that I've been doing for the last couple of months.
Okay. I know this isn't your only job with the department, but I just want to thank you for being cognizant of all of these different management responsibilities and making sure that there aren't any expirations or what have you, and we don't have any of those inadvertent failures or what have you. But I'm sure you agree with me that the main objective is to get them done as quickly as humanly possible. But with all due respect, do you budget your own department, or is your department budgeted by us and working with the mayor, et cetera, and then we give you the resources in which you can actually act out your responsibilities?
Well, this body has tremendous influence over our budget, how we spend it, how we, obviously our changes in budget have to go here.
I'm getting down to even a more black and white building block. You don't wave a magic wand and all of a sudden you come up with $5 or $10 million. There has to be a source. Either the source is federal grants or the general fund budget of the city of Los Angeles. Bottom line is all of those things have to go through the council, and 90% of them probably signature of the mayor or one or both, right?
Absolutely.
So you don't get to create money.
No, I can't sell police cars and use it for DNA testing.
Exactly. So I just want to make that clear, because I wouldn't want anybody to direct any inappropriate energy or responsibility towards someone that is doing only what you are being given to work with. So again, I appreciate the job that you're doing. It is a tremendous juggling act. But what I'd like to thank my colleague Jack Weiss for is for seconding a motion today. I won't speak to the language in the motion, but hopefully we'll hear it as soon as possible in the Public Safety Committee that talks about this federal stimulus package. Do you care? Sorry about that word, care or not, but do you have an opinion about where the money comes from, or would you just like the resources so you can get back on track and get the job done? Does it matter to you if it's federal money, county money, city money, donated money, federal money, stimulus package money, whether Obama writes a check personally or whatever? Does it matter to you where this money comes from, or is what matters to you is as long as you get the resources, you will do everything that you can to get back on track?
Well, and I know where you're going with this, and obviously money's money to me. I spend it. I would need money to get out of this crisis, and where I get it is not so much an issue to me in this particular chair. Now, in my other chair as chief of detectives, I got to worry about money for homicide, money for all the other things we need. But I understand your point.
Okay. So you welcome the resources?
I welcome the resources from wherever they are, and we're actively trying. We're going to the public, and I hate doing that. I feel guilty. I mean, as Mr. Rosenthal said, I feel ashamed too also to ask the public for funds for this. But, if that's what I got to do to get us out of this, that's what I'll do.
Yeah, well, there's $1 trillion coming from Washington throughout all communities around the state, including the state of California, all communities around the country. And the fact of the matter is, in the stimulus package, ladies and gentlemen, they have several $1 billion for law enforcement. If this isn't a nexus and/or a direct law enforcement issue, I don't know what is. The fact of the matter is that's something that I hope and expect that we will hopefully do well by you and the department and all of the victims, and making sure that we activate and get Washington to understand if there's ever a Project Ready style situation, if there's ever a situation where law enforcement is in fact where the money's going toward, it's these rape kits and getting beyond where we are today, getting back on track and doing right by the victims, doing right by potential future victims by not catching these folks, and then also get you the resources. It's part of the responsibilities right here. So thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you. Mr. Reyes, our next council member.
Thank you, Council President. It's been a long discussion. I just want to kind of recap and really understand what I'm hearing. You have recommendations on page 17 of this report. Of these recommendations, are we going to check off all of them? Some of them? How are we responding to these recommendations? There's a lot of work that's been put through this, and I just want to understand that everything we've been saying, it sounds great, we've got ideas, but what are we doing with the recommendations, and are we following them on page 17? You don't have to go through every one. I just want to understand.
Yeah.
Where are you taking us?
Sarah's three primary recommendations.
Council President?
The three primary recommendations from this report, I agree with completely. We need to develop our internal and external capacity to test all rape kits. We need to adequately develop systems to ensure that if we don't test rape kits within a timely fashion, and I don't intend to have this happen, that we have a notification, not only system, but a method and believe me, this is an extremely important piece. If we have to notify a victim of a statute issue or of a failure to test issue, it's not a form letter. This is a human being that we have to have a discussion with about how we failed them. So, we're working with Human Rights Watch and others so that when we identify the folks that would require notification, that we do it right. So, the primary recommendations we agree with.
So when I look at the great universities like USC and UCLA and all the great universities in Southern California, and you have an amazing number of students who are learning about criminology and the science, are we thinking about approaching these institutions and putting together an infrastructure that helps us get to this volume sooner than later? Is that even in the discussion?
Sure. Well, as was alluded to earlier, Cal State LA, tremendous partner with us on this. They're
already there?
Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah, absolutely. The lab is located directly adjacent to the campus. They have a fantastic criminology program, and literally, we hire graduates directly from that program. Many times they walk across the street, go from the learning institution to employment, and I think that's a model. If there's anything that that we did right in this, that's that.
And so when you look at the grants that have been identified in the report, are we building capacity with those resources, or just something that you're evolving into? Is there a real plan to make that happen, or are we still kind of...
Yeah, building capacity is part of our long-range plan. That is absolutely key to this, because I want to be the last Los Angeles police officer that ever sits in front of this body and talks about rape backlog. And that requires us to not only to buy down the backlog by outsourcing, but building capacity. And that's what the 26 positions next year, the 16 positions this year, that's what they're all about, is building capacity. And then, something that we haven't really talked about here, but this body should think about is on the federal side, is increasing the technology. This is tremendously laborious. Nationwide, criminalists average, full-time criminalists working on DNA can only do about 70 cases a year. And that's national average. That's national standard, not LAPD standard. That's national standard. That's insufficient. We need a better system. We need better technology so that we can up the ability of criminalists to test cases. Now, in the UK and some other places, they get better results than we do because they have different systems. So I think that's another big discussion that's probably it's not time for yet. But that's where I want to get after I get this piece off of us.
Right. Just the last point. You have an amazing body of volunteers, an amazing amount of resources that's been demonstrated by this great organization. But when you look at the basic notion of supply and demand, a need, the market, without violating the integrity of the process or the legalities of what we need to stand on to make a case, couldn't the private sector get involved where they can bring those resources, where it does benefit the public?
I think that there's a couple of things that you touch on that are really important. One of them is a federal requirement that law enforcement employees are the only entity that can upload data into the federal database, CODIS, the database.
It has to be an LAPD.
Right, we have to do that. So now, in the UK, the private labs can enter, according to people that I've talked to, can enter into the database. So you cut out a whole step, and you greatly speed up the process. Now, does it require certification and a monitoring and all that stuff? It does. But this is right now. Private labs are doing the bulk of our work. But what I would like is that they be able to complete the work and that we not have to use our criminalists to redo what they did after their
So
testing.
that's federal law.
That's a federal law. I can't have no
So we have to
control
get a congressional sponsor to update our capacity as individuals to meet the advancement of technology, and given all the proven methods of other countries, to essentially catch up to a modern age.
We could do this better, yes.
Okay, so we need to look for a congressional sponsor.
I think that's really important. I can have my folks at the lab put together what our request would be, and this, I think with the new administration, this might be a good time.
I would be more than happy to take that proactive step so that we can have the kind of environment that speaks to how we capture the advantages of technology if we are able to update these laws. And I would love to see that information, and I know there'll be sponsors out there at the federal level to take us to the modern age.
Yeah, privatization.
So thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Riz. Our next speaker is Mr. Alarcon.
Members, I still remember in 1987 when my sisters and mother called me to a family meeting to tell me that my mother had been raped in Washington, D.C. on a trip. And I still remember how the DA recommended to her not to come forward because she was in Los Angeles. It would be difficult for a woman in her 60s to go to D.C. and fight the case. But the DA didn't know my mom, and my mom fought the case. And eventually, the perpetrator was put in jail for 7 years. As I came to City Council, I sat down with Jack Weiss. One of the first things I did, because I wanted to find out what was going on with these rape kits. And Eric told me that Jack was going to be the vanguard on that issue. So I sat down with Jack and I gave my full support for any measures that it would take to clear out these rape kits. Because I couldn't even fathom how many times that guy could have raped somebody else if my mom had not come forward. I couldn't imagine how many people would be deterred from reporting any kind of crime if my mom had taken the DA's advice. And I think, when I think of the thousands and thousands of kits that have not been processed, I think that we've created almost psychology, because you know how the system works. The guys know what will be filed and what won't be filed. They know. And I believe they know that rape is not a priority in our city. And I believe that it encourages others to act in the same way. So whatever it takes, we got to do it. And I want to thank Jack for his leadership. I only wish that we could do it all in one fell swoop. I understand the complications, and particularly with our CSI mentality, we think that every case is investigated like they do on CSI, and it's not. Well, that technology is very expensive, and it's not available in all crimes. So I just think that we should send a different message to the women of Los Angeles, that if they are a victim of a rape, they can have the full confidence that we will prosecute to the full extent of our ability, including and especially when we've invaded their privacy a second time, to take the rape kit and to not use it, I think is a violation again. And I would hope that we would give them the confidence moving forward that those kids will be fully analyzed and they will be empowered to put their violator in jail where they belong. And so whatever it takes, you have my support, Jack.
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon. Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the Human Rights Watch for this very compelling report. and recommendations on page 17. They are quite extensive list of recommendations, and I agree with my colleague Ed Riss. What are we doing with the recommendations? I mean, I would like to see the police department, adopt these recommendations as policy, and because I don't see how you come back and report every 6 months. Because I think the basis of the reporting was particularly on a lot of these recommendations and how they're being implemented. And it is very disturbing. It is very, very disturbing, as many of you have indicated today, that we are still here talking about this. And I remember the first time Councilmember Weiss really took this on and has shown great passion on this, spending his own some of his own money from his office to help process this, and certainly for a year, kind of knowing that it was our priority and it was something that we believed in funding. Many of us were led to believe that when the police department asked for the positions, that was going to be enough to do, what we thought was going to take place. So it is disturbing to know that we still have this backlog, and I think many of you expressed the real issues here, but it really is certainly about, it's about honoring the courage of a woman to come forward and go through this process. But it's also at the core of the police department's mission, which is to serve and protect. And it's really the rights of all women really are being violated, and certainly the ones that this terrible crime was committed against, but really all women in this city and beyond, the right to be protected against, this type of a crime. Those rights are being violated because we have not tested this evidence and then really made it a priority to find these men and prosecute them and get them off the streets. And it's really creating a very unsafe environment in Los Angeles. And if there's anything that's at your core, it is to protect and to serve. So it's really very disturbing. I'm trying to get a handle on, is it about creating capacity with these positions, or is it about, outsourcing the testing of this evidence? Is it equal? Are you putting more emphasis on the backlog or on creating capacity as we move forward?
It has to be both. It absolutely has to be both. We can't build enough internal capacity to test the backlog. So we have to outsource the backlog.
Right.
While we build...
What's the advantage of outsourcing it versus creating capacity? Is there someone...
Well,
it sounds like, the way you describe it, there's other labs that are actually doing it better. So why wouldn't we actually spend more emphasis on testing the backlog, outsourcing it? Are we using...
Because we can do that. I can do that at a level that I can't do internally. It takes...
Right.
It
That's
takes,
what I'm
it takes
saying.
time. Because it takes time to hire criminalists. There's only so many available in
Right.
this region. We're hiring them as quick as we can train them up. And if I was to wait until I had a adequate staff to test the backlog...
No, you're missing my point. I'm saying, why aren't we spending more emphasis on outsourcing and...
We are. I've outsourced...
More than equal. I would rather see us spend the resources on outsourcing and getting this evidence tested than creating capacity.
I'm outsourcing as quickly as I can, given the funding that I have, and giving the qualified labs that I can outsource to. So far, since I took over this position...
What I'm saying is, do you see what I'm saying? And I don't know, no one's really telling me...
I can't outsource any more than I'm doing right now. If I could outsource more, I would.
Why can't you outsource more?
Because there's only so many qualified labs that have so much capacity to take these things. We have contracts with 2 labs, Bodie and Cellmark, and we are operating them at what they tell us is their capacity to take these kids.
There's only certain labs that do this.
That's exactly right, because they have to be certified labs. Now, we're actively looking for more labs, but the other thing is that I'm on target to spend all the funds that I have by the end of this fiscal year. So we have a measured process to get this thing done with the capacities that the outside labs have and the money that I have to fund out. Now, next year...
Well, okay.
No,
I just want to make sure that the outsourcing capacity you're able to fund, or you're still saying you're lacking funding to outsource?
No,
You have enough money to outsource?
For the rest of this fiscal year, but it will not eliminate the backlog. The backlog is more than we can outsource within this fiscal year.
What if you took some of the money that you're planning on creating capacity to continue to outsource? I guess colleagues...
Well, the point is this. The point is this, is that unless I build capacity, we will always have an increasing backlog. The goal is
because there's not enough labs.
No, because I don't have the internal capacity to test all the kids that come in the front door right now.
All the evidence.
Right.
All the evidence
that comes in the front door right now, I do not have the capacity to test. If all I did was outsource, we would just continually build backlog constantly.
Okay.
And what we need to do is get to the place where we have a lab that can test all the evidence, sexual assault evidence, that comes in that is current and comes in the front door, and have taken care of our backlog through outsourcing. That's my goal. In the next 2 years, we'll have zero backlog that needs to be outsourced, and we can stop doing this outsourcing, and we will have capacity so that I can have folks that I am in charge of, that I can go to, that I can prioritize cases with, and have them test in real time. And that's where we need to go. You know, that's been the discussion. I think that's exactly what Sarah and Human Rights Watch has put forward. I agree with them wholeheartedly. That's the trail that we're on. You know, and I think that's where we need to go. And my best advice to this body is that we continue on both these paths.
Thank you, Chief. Ms. Hahn.
Thank you.
Let's speak.
Let me just say, so again, for everyone watching, going on both these paths, building our own capacity, continuing to be funded for as many outsourcing as you can, do.
As we can get labs to take. And we're actively looking for more capacity.
When will we be at a point where we feel like we have dealt with the backlog?
I'm hoping that we can do this within 2 years, given continued funding and between 18 months and 2 years, depending on capacity, and what's going to happen, unfortunately, is as there's many other cities that have this exact problem, they just don't know it yet. And there's going to be tremendous competition for these outsourcing labs. You know, if I was an entrepreneur, this is what I'd be thinking about doing, but I'm not, so I'm not. So it's very important that we build our contracts with these folks. And the contracts depend on their ability to build their own staffing. So, I mean, it's a very complicated piece, but I think that we're doing the right things on it. I have confidence in the plan that we have. I think that as we continue to drive down the occurrence of rape, we will be able to keep up with this extremely important piece of the evidence chain.
Right. Let me just add a final thing, and then I'll close. And I think what we also want from you is we want you to tell us what can work better. Like we just heard today for the first time, gee, it would be nice to have federal legislation that allowed non-police officers to upload the data. Okay, I think that's what we want from you, Chief Beck. We want you to keep coming to us.
Yeah.
If I was an entrepreneur, maybe we would create some more of these labs. Come to us continually and saying, you know what, this could make it better. This could make it work better for all of us. And I think we don't want to just wait till the next time we're sitting here for you to throw out these kind of ideas nonchalantly that would make it work better. That's what I think we're expecting from you. It's a priority for us. Let's work together. You're smarter than you're giving yourself credit for. You know in your mind what could make things work better. Come to us. We've got the resources, federal, state, and local government to try to improve the process so that maybe all of us working together can get us to where we want to get.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hahn.
Thank you.
I will do that. I have to apologize. This is a big learning curve for me. I've only been doing this for 3 or 4 months now. So a lot of these things, I just talked to a representative from England this past week and discovered that we should be doing this differently. So.
Thank you. Councilman Zine.
Thank you. Now you get to turn to this side. I'm not going to beat you up because I know your dedication to this particular subject. and Ivan Sanchez Owens, the lieutenant, the captain. I know your dedication to this, so I'm not here to beat you up on it. We're talking about the category of rape and rape kits, and for those that don't know, I was a member of the LAPD for 33 years, retired, council member, still a reserve officer. And I've been with rape victims, and I've seen the trauma they go through and how this continues through our society. Sad as it is, it continues. When we're talking about the DNA analysis, the rape kit, before we had DNA, we had fingerprints. Now we still have fingerprints. Now we've expanded it out. How many kits do we have DNA requesting analysis outside of the rape kits? Homicide. We heard the grieving family this morning, the hit and run where the young student died. That car gets impounded. They have evidence, DNA sample requested. How many other numbers do we have? I mean, we've got a lot in this county, 12,000, including the county, sheriff's department, other jurisdictions. But if we take all those samples that are standing by for analysis, homicide, child molesting, hit and run, what would our number be? Because I don't know what it is, and that's why I'm asking, because we're focusing on one category, which is critical. How many other categories do we have that are sitting there waiting to get analyzed?
And, you know, I don't have that number with me. I can tell you this. We have 55,000 items in frozen storage, which are items that have been put in frozen storage because they believe that there's DNA or may have a DNA connection. Now, how many?
55,000. And if we're...
About 11,000 of which are either tested or untested sexual assault kits.
And then the other categories would include homicides?
The other categories could include homicide, all the way down to we actually get touch DNA on property crimes.
Right.
So this is a category that is just, and this is why it is so important that we build lab capacity, and equally as important that this science move forward. I mean, it's ridiculous that it takes 4 years of schooling to process 80 kits a year. I mean, we got to get better at this. And this is not a LAPD SID.
It's technology.
Issue. No, this is a technology issue. So, I mean, we need to move forward because police officers are going to book this evidence, and they should. And hopefully, we get to a point in our future when we can deal with it. But
so, the more officers we hire, the more work's going to come in. Hopefully we'll reduce crime, but still we're going to have criminal elements in society.
Yes, we will.
And as the tragedy occurred with the student, hopefully those individuals get apprehended. That car is impounded. There's evidence. There'll be a request to prioritize the DNA processing. Meanwhile, we have rape victims that are waiting, and we got the backlog. So we're looking at 55,000 just LAPD.
It's just
if we
LAPD.
take the other jurisdictions, it could be 100,000 just in this jurisdiction of LA County.
Easily.
So the concern...
And more all the time.
The concern I have is the technology, and I think it's $1,000 analysis, if I'm not mistaken, about $1,000.
A little more than that, but that's about right.
So if we take that, the cost obviously is more than we have in the city budget. The technology is what I'm looking at.
You're right.
With the president talking about changing the world and trying to make things more efficient, more effective. You know, we came in with the Industrial Revolution. Maybe we need to explore throughout the country, you mentioned England, what type of analysis they have where it can be expedited in a manner that can withstand a court challenge. And maybe that's an area that we need to pursue, because if we're going with the outsourcing, as we know they can only handle so many, we know we can have so many chemists, how do we then look into the future? How can we automate this? I mean, if we look at the police operations, when you and I began to where it is today, with the technology, the computers in the car, we never had that.
No, we didn't.
And are we doing exploration with the department throughout the world to say what type of computer technology do they have, what type of analysis, what type of sophistication we can reduce the time to process it and get it done and have it certified by the courts?
Well, you know, and this is not a good bureaucrat's answer, but I'm beginning to think, and like I said, I'm on a learning curve with this. I'm beginning to think that privatization may be the answer on this. The competition between private labs to develop technology, has worked very well, throughout our history as a nation. The competitive nature of private industry is a terrific early adopter of technology and a terrific way to develop it. So, you know, I haven't completely solidified my thinking on this. I get a lot of input from the scientists that work for me. But I think that maybe a combination, a hybrid of public and private labs might be a national model that advances the technology enough that we can deliver on the promise of DNA. And that's exactly what you're talking about. I mean, there's this huge promise to solve crime, not just rape, all crime. But we're not delivering on the promise.
Well, the folks that are here today are on a very specific category, a category where people are victimized, and those scars remain with them for the rest of their lives. But I'm thinking of the homicide victims, their families who come forward to us. We offer reward, suspects apprehended. And I know that we've done technology enhancement with fingerprints, where we have now a system that scans, sends it through, it logs it, it catalogs it, versus the old way where the person with the magnifying glass would look at the whorls and the swirls to find out.
Thank you, Mr. Zine, very much on that.
So the question is, in conclusion, Mr. LeBones, we are looking at a technology, how we can enhance it so we can be more efficient, more effective, and rape victims and homicide victims and whatever the category, to have the state-of-the-art technology.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think that's where we have to go. If I get the alligators off me, then that's the swamp that we got to drain on this.
You got it. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, members, I'm going to call some public comment here. I know there's many people here. I'm going to ask for 1 minute public comment. If you need anything additional, please speak it as well. Lindsay Horvath. Is Lindsay here? Thank you, Lindsay.
Good afternoon, and thank you. My name is Lindsay Horvath. I'm president of the Hollywood chapter of the National Organization for Women. We are among many organizations that are leading a grassroots effort based on the incredible wealth of research that we have received and worked with the Human Rights Watch in understanding and going through and learning exactly how we can be the best advocacy group for them and for the work that they've been doing for a number of years now, and we're very grateful for it. Our chapter covers Hollywood, and we're very grateful for the work of Council President Eric Garcetti and the work that he does with our chapter there. We cover the city of West Hollywood, which leads, the question was raised earlier about smaller cities and their certain circumstances. And West Hollywood has 3 kids in their queue, 3. No one should have to ask for this work to be done. It shouldn't be based on personal donations. This should be budgeted by the city. We shouldn't be telling survivors of sexual assault that we will be doing anything but pursuing a path to justice. It's the least we can do for them. Yes, it is an issue of political will. Yes, it is an issue of budget, but it's mostly for us an issue of accountability. We understand that from the audit that was done by Comptroller Chick that federal funds were returned that to the tune of over $500,000. That would have been quite an investment in helping solve this problem. We understand that the system doesn't allow for easy access to information. In our advocacy efforts, we know that what is most valuable to all of you council members is understanding things like how many of your residents are affected by this backlog. So we asked for that information, and we were told by the crime labs that they don't track information that way. We can't tell you the number of people in your district that are affected by this backlog. We were told you have to go into the freezers and count them by hand. I said, give me a parka, I'll do it myself. This is information we need. We need to know how many people are affected. We will be in your inboxes, we will be in your mailboxes, we'll be in your council chambers and your offices too until this issue is resolved. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Mort Allen, Mr. Mort Allen. Mr. Allen left the building. Yvonne Autry. Yvonne Autry.
Yes, good morning again. We would appreciate your most immediate attention to the resolution of this matter and to give closure to the situation for so many victims. I think it really reflects very negatively on the city because of either the failure to address this issue, the neglect, or because you refuse to. This is a huge edifice that was just completed. This is a new police department. Why is the money being used to create a new department that is not serving the public? I'm a black woman. There was a time when men could rape black women and they were never prosecuted. Why aren't these men or the rapists being sought after? Why aren't I just don't understand, like, what is the priority here? Is it not a priority, and why isn't it a priority? If $4.4 million was already allocated in 2004 or 2002, Mr. Vice, I mean, what's happening with the situation here? This is incumbent. It should be a number one priority. Also, I know the downtown is being gentrified, so there's no problem with the allocation of those funds being used. So why aren't the rape kits being examined, and so that there can be closure given so the prosecution, which is in order, can take place?
Thank you very much. Deborah Burton, please.
My name is Deborah Burton. I am an organizer with the Los Angeles Community Action Network. I am also a survivor of violence. In my community, 7 out of 10 women have been victims of violence at some time in their life. I am here today to stand in solidarity of the Human Rights Watch in creating a solution to ending the backlog of rape kits. The safety of Los Angeles citizens is at risk. We see that our elected officials do not consider protecting us as a priority. Public safety is not a priority in the city of Los Angeles. The victims have to wonder, will the perpetrator ever be caught? Will the trauma that I endured during the rape, proceeding after the rape, examination, and then I have to wait years and years later, hoping that the lab tests or the lab results, will be analyzed. The decision is left up to a detective. I'm wondering, is the detective going to pass this information on to the lab so I will have my day of justice?
Thank you very much for your comment. Veronica Dolman, please.
Good morning, Councilman. My name is Veronica Dolman, and I'm a resident of downtown, and I'm an active member of Los Angeles Community Action Network. I, too, am a survivor of rape. I was raped in the military for trying to defend my country. In 1997, here in Los Angeles, I was brutally raped by 2 Latinos. Nothing ever happened. I never heard anything about it. And now y'all saying about the big backlog that you have? This has been on my mind. I have been living with this since 1997, and nothing has been done about it. You have a lot of women that don't even report rape because we know that nothing is never going to be done about it. So do I have to go the rest of my life wondering if I don't ever have justice? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dolman. Mr. Anthony.
Well, viewers, you're hearing some real-life testimony here on this. LA's #1, we made it, but for the wrong reasons. Listen, you've had Michael, Matt, Zuma, Arnold, John, Clyde, all these people that are the watchdogs for the city council here telling you of what's going on. The human rights had to come in and let these folks know what they're not doing. What a black eye in the city. If these folks would do their job, they're supposed to be overwatching, overseeing, overdoing all of this, they're not doing anything. Here's another black eye on the city. Here's another reason for you to call your council members. Listen, folks, you have to help all the folks that are back here behind me that come out here on a regular basis to let these folks know they have to start doing their job. Call 311, call your council members, let them know. Get the mayor's office number, call him, and let these folks know we are now paying attention.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs, please.
Yes, thank you. Arnold Sachs, good afternoon. You heard in the testimony from the officer that testing done for rape kits was done as per detective request. There was a change in the policy because there was a change in the national policy requiring all crimes to have a DNA testing. Did the city, when they changed this policy, step up to enhance the forensic unit for the police department? It's a simple question. There was some state legislation that was passed several years ago. I think it was Samantha's Law that required all sexual predators to be to have monitors. But the state legislation didn't pass any funding for people to monitor the monitors. So what happened? There was a gap between the need and the enforcement. And this is a similar situation.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs.
You said if you need more time, sir. I'd just like another, about 30 seconds. You have a situation.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs.
You said,
Mr. Weiss, we're going to close this here. And if the Human Rights Watch would like to join again at the table, if you would like that, Mr. Weiss.
Yeah, I was going to ask the folks from Human Rights Watch if they wanted to offer any concluding remarks, but I think Ms. Tofty had to go to another meeting that starts around 1 o'clock. So let me just thank the board members who are still here, Patty Giggins from Peace Over Violence, who's still here, who's been here for every single one of these hearings for the last several years, National Organization for Women, which is still here, Gail Barbadell had to leave, and the members of this council who I thought spoke quite forcefully and quite eloquently to the issue today. And I think we're all looking forward to the day when we can not only just put this issue behind us, but really ensure that the LAPD is a true model for the rest of the region and the nation. And I think I have a feeling, based on everything that was discussed here today, that that is in fact going to happen. Thank you all.
Madam Clerk, to conclude the public comment as well as the comments from council members, could we have this issue before us?
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay, can we open the roll on this?
Vote on your motion. Yeah.
Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much. Also, members, can we have 31 go settlement, go forthwith? Thank you, Mr. City Attorney, on that item, forthwith. What's before us, Madam Clerk?
Next item, Mr. President, is item number 14, and that was called special by Councilmember Reyes.
Mr. Reyes.
thank you, Council President. Colleagues, I'd like to call up the city staff that's working on this item. And we have a few departments are working on this. First, I want to start by saying I support the report. I believe the changes that need to occur. Support Councilman Perry's wetland project is important. The transference of funds that you see in the report is also important. But I wanted to remind my colleagues and the public and our great staff that we have in our literature, when we spoke about Prop O, we actually referred to the Los Angeles River on several instances. We talk about remove trash from Los Angeles River and Boyona Creek. We talk about reduce bacteria and water toxins from the LA River. We talk about we'll reduce water toxins that enter the groundwater, LA River and Boyona Creek, as well as development and purchase of land to create water cleansing landscapes and parkways along and surrounding the LA River, Boyona Creek. Now, the committee at one time had dedicated $50 million towards the river itself. And because of the fact that we have over $500 million worth of projects, that we were able to be allocated 30, of which we are using to acquire property along the river. 20 million remains. Now, as we go through these reports, I know there are projects, there are other facilities that might not use all of their funds. There might be savings, there might be cost measures that allows for that fund to be reused, just like the report is doing. So I wanted to get a report back from the CAO on the feasibility of getting to that 20 million so we can do the type of projects that are not only functional but visual, things that people can see. And not to shortchange the significance that's already been done. They're doing a great job in Echo Park Lake. There have been other systems approaches that you've been working on. So I just wanted to see if you can just describe a couple of those. If you can hold my time, please. Councilman Labange, Council President.
Okay. Good afternoon, council members. Mark Tulai, the Office of the CAO. Yes, Councilmember Reyes, we will continue to review additional revenues through grants that Bureau of Sanitation is pursuing. We are also looking at cost savings from completed projects and other savings as we move into construction. Sometimes we can have savings there. We will continue to report back on these savings and bring it to council so we can, and the oversight committees, so we can decide on how we want to fund the additional monies. We have 2 projects currently in the queue in addition to the 20 million you referenced.
So you are with engineering, did I hear you correctly?
I'm Office of the CAO.
Oh, the CAO, okay,
Yes.
thank you. So you report on what the engineers and
Sanitation
are actually doing. So they have the discretion to put forth the nature of the projects, the scale of the projects, and they define the impact of the projects, correct?
That's correct. And then we go through the oversight committees and they agree and make the recommendations which we bring to council.
Okay. So there is some flexibility, some hope that perhaps we can get to that 20 million. And I'll say why in a little bit, but I want to hear from the other staff. But thank you for that. From the other staff, if we look at the verbiage that was in the Prop O measure, that obviously spoke to a desire for the communities of the Southland of LA to see our water treatment take the type of changes we need to institute to clean our ocean, to catch the urban slobber before it gets to the ocean, to actually infiltrate through our different systems. Can you describe some of the systems that allows us to get to that point? And then I'll ask another question right after that.
Good afternoon, Shram Karagani, Bureau of Sanitation. Councilmember, yes, as you indicated that the Bureau of Sanitation and the city, we have embraced green technology and natural solution to clean up our rivers, streams, and ultimately the ocean. The Prop O has provided for 26 projects that are all of them are of green nature that we are currently implementing. And as these projects are going to be completed, they are going to make the waterways of the city cleaner and also comply with the mandates that we have. I hold a permit on behalf of the city, and compliance with those regulations, federal regulation, is of our highest priority.
And these systems, we will be able to measure how we are performing in order to meet these mandates?
Yes, actually, each project has monitoring plans that we actually go like the human, that we take the blood test, we take the test of the water and find out that the pollutant of concern that we were trying to eliminate, has that been reduced or not? Yes.
Okay. Engineer?
Kendrick Okuda, Bureau of Engineering, Propositional Program Implementation Manager. The Bureau of Engineering, in partnership with Sanitation as well as the LA River Master Plan Committee, worked very hard on several projects that we believe will have an opportunity for potential Prop O funding in the future. Let me just say that the Bureau is committed to delivering the projects within the budget. That's the currently approved projects. But it's also important that we have the responsibility to sustain project implementation through construction, through the completion of construction. So that said, we will be continuously monitoring the project budgets to ensure that all the project budgets, the construction budgets can be sustained and completed through construction, and to be reporting back to the oversight committees on a month-to-month basis on our progress.
I just want to connect a couple of dots here. We have federal type of policies that are emerging in which we as a city could actually say probably one of the few cities in the country that can say that we have put our money where our mouth is. The constituents here in Los Angeles have put forth this proposition. We have $500 million on the table. I've been focusing on physical transformation of how the river functions that has, I think, an incredible amount of benefits to the overall system, both visually, socially, environmentally. So we are in a position to share with the federal government, say, we put X amount of millions, you should match us 2 to 1, 3 to 1. Now there's a piece of property in the Taylor Yard. We've already done 40 acres. There's a remaining piece, about 30 acres, that the railroad company owns. It's right on the riverbanks. It's the largest piece of land where we can put forth the type of stormwater harvesting technologies, filtration facilities, natural habitats that actually function, that actually cleans the water before it gets any further south towards the ocean. It's a big ticket item, but it would have a tremendous impact to the region and the watershed. How can I get the engineers and sanitation to actually prioritize this acquisition because of the multiplicity of benefits it has? Not that the other projects don't, but we're at that stage now where we need to prove ourselves to the federal government that this will work. Can you share any thoughts? And I'd like to address that question to you directly.
Yes, Councilman, actually, we have been working with your staff, Ms. Vela and also Ms. Soriel, and as you mentioned that the city has put $500 million, so we are leveraging that against any available bonding and grants that both state and federal government provides, and G2 is one of those projects that we have in our inventory of all the projects for the city to apply for.
But that's my point. It's part of the inventory. I think it should be a higher priority. That's why I'm asking for the CAO report back to talk about where we can get to those 20 million and actually use it to match with the state and the federal government to reach that level of impact that I think after 6 years of putting together a master plan for the river revitalization, that now is the time to implement. So that's what I'm trying to stress to you.
Yes, Councilmember, we certainly can do that, report back to you, and address your concerns with both oversight committees on this issue.
And I want to thank the mayor's office, the oversight committee, all the hard work you're doing. I know sometimes you work so hard and you say, well, thank you very much, but I am thanking you for your hard work. But I need to just raise and amplify this to a level in which not only do the citizens recognize that the proper funds are really doing something, even though they might not see it, it might not be as dramatic, but the impact on our ecosystems, our waterways, will be felt with time, and we'll be able to prove that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I encourage an aye vote.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, and I thank the committee for their work. And the creation of a reserve fund, if you will, for this bond program really is a very good idea. I think we ought to take this and look at it for more of the projects that we do and taking program savings and efficiencies, putting aside just in case, because we know there will be overruns. We know there are always going to be problems with projects like this. My concern is to you, and on CASA, that we actually, contrary to what a speaker earlier said today in public comment, we are doing that with our budget. We now have a rainy day fund when we have revenues that exceed projections. We're putting it aside. On this project, my concerns is in the report, it talks about funding for two projects. One is, I believe, in Mr. Reyes' just Boyle Heights, or Mr. Weezar's, one or the other, Weezar's, and then the Elisa Limekiln project, which are in the batter's deck, if you will, for project funding. And we said we're holding those aside until the proper time comes to fund those with this money that we have. So the question for me is, when do we know when the proper time is now to release those funds to fund those additional projects that are in the batter's deck waiting for funding?
Yeah, our office's concern is that we have adequate funding for the two largest projects, that would be Echo Park Lake and Machado Lake, and given the scope and size of those projects and that there is little precedent for the engineering office on them, that we want to ensure there is no general fund subsidy come time for those projects to implement construction. So we will have a better sense then, but we will continue to report on an interim basis any other savings that we have between now and construction of those two projects.
Again, where will the time frame come that we should watch for that to happen? Will you come back to us when we're 50% under construction and say, okay, well, now we've got a good handle on it, when we've awarded the contracts and they've begun work? Where does that time frame come so that those of us that have those projects waiting can say, okay, it's time now for the committee to release the funding on those next projects?
Councilmember, just to reiterate my earlier comments, probably at the end of construction.
End of construction.
At the end of construction, and we are, over the next 5 to 6 years, going to be completing construction on about 29 total projects. They're sequenced for completion. Actually, the earliest one is within the next couple of months. When construction is completed, and all the unforeseen things that could happen during construction are over with, that's the opportunity at which the Bureau of Engineering would come back to our partners at the Sanitation CAO's office and make recommendations for project adjustments.
Okay. The only request I would have then is, for those of us who have those projects, Mr. Weezer and myself, that are waiting, that you give us a regular update on the status of those two big projects, the Echo Lake and the Macchiato project. I've got 2 years left here, and before I know I'm not going to get it done before I leave here. I just want to know where we are in getting that project done, and where we have the possibility of funding that, and if not, what else I need to do to make sure that happens. So I think it's important for us to keep an eye on those two projects and keep us informed of where we are on those other big projects, so that we can kind of keep an eye on it ourselves. Okay? I appreciate that much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members wishing to be heard on this? If not, let's go ahead and please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Thank you. That is approved. Next item, please.
Next item is item 23, and that was call special for cards.
Okay. Item 23 is before us. We have a card from Zuma Dog. Is it 1G or 2? Because there's 2 on this one. It's 2? All right. Go ahead, Mr. Dog. And after that will be Mr. Anthony.
First of all, I believe one of the council members whose name is appearing on the quorum is outside the building currently, not to get the guy in trouble, but please, if the person's leaving the building, please take their name off. Also, item 24 needs to be reconsidered. Council President, City Attorney, item 24 needs to be reconsidered. I have no attention of the City Council at this time. As you can see, no. Okay, 24 needs to be reconsidered.
Yeah, we can't put it on the screen, sir.
Right. Okay.
We're technical.
Oh, thank you. Now I would like to talk about REAP. I'm going to spend 30 seconds. Rent escrow program. I had a daughter call me and say, my mom, she's 84 years old, suicidal over the situations that the REAP rent escrow program is imposing on her as a landlord and where they live. And I know Councilmember Smith doesn't like it, but I'm here to say there must be something to this. And now I'm going to have to talk into the next minute that I didn't want to. There must be something to it. When people contact Zuma Dog and say, my mom's suicidal, when somebody says, gee, my house is being taken from me, these are things, I know that there are bad landlords in town, and I know that they need to be dealt with and be forced to comply. But because the program has some good purposes, does not allow the city, and I'm here to say, I believe it's corruption, I believe it's racketeering, and I believe that I know that there's a federal lawsuit, and then you say, oh, well, the person filing a lawsuit, well, they're an idiot and they don't know what they're talking about. Well, they said that about Michael Hunt, and he just sued you guys, and he got $250,000 and another $250,000 of attorney fees. So, you know what? You already blew $7 billion in Wall Street and shady real estate investments because nobody pays attention. Please pay attention to the people contacting Zuma Dog in crisis over your vindictive REAP rent escrow program that I know does some good, but it is certainly crippling the renters and the property owners.
Thank you. Mr. Anthony is our next speaker.
Good afternoon, City Council. I'll just take a minute of this. Here we are with REAP. Listen up, viewers on Channel 35. You can call for one or two issues today. We already have the RAPE kit, and we have the REAP escrow program. Call your 15 council members, the mayor's office. Let these people know that you are paying attention. On the national basis, when the councilmen and the senators receive 20,000 to 100,000 phone calls in a week, they do pay attention to your phone calls. Email them, call them, one way or the other. Let these folks know that you are paying attention. Listen, just because this is a law, this is the law that these 15 council members passed, they made this a policy, doesn't make it right, doesn't make it what's right, what they're doing, and how they're managing this program here. So give them a call. Thank you.
We'll close public comment on that. Just a point of information, the REAP program predated every council member that's here in these chambers. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Next item, please.
Next item is item 24, and that was called special for cards.
Zuma Dog with 2 Gs, and then Michael Hunt.
Yes. Oh, Michael left. I saw him on the bus stop out there. Yes, we're talking about a commissioner salary for children, youth, and families. Here's what I think the message needs to be. If you're going to approve any salary for the commissioners, here's some things. First of all, we need an education campaign for the parents. The school systems are in big trouble, and we all know about it. And we have a lot of problems with the school administration and the teachers, but we need to start now. What can parents do? The school, they'll have to fix themselves, and they'll work on that. I have no faith in that. Parents need to do more to educate their kids to be ready to go to school. Let's just talk about some of the statistics. We have a lot of people coming here to the city that they don't know English, for example. Maybe they come here and they speak Spanish, and then they have kids, high population of kids, and they're sending them to schools not knowing how to speak the language. And it is not a besmirch on the culture or heritage to say that your kids should speak the language of the country you're in. It's to elevate your generation, to take it to the next level, to say we're here in this country and we don't speak the language of the country, and we don't have the world open to us here in this country. We have to live underground. We don't have all the opportunity that's available to us. Send your kids to school knowing English. I guess that's a big message. And I spoke with Richard Alarcon about this in committee, and he said he agrees. Because I couldn't pass first grade if I didn't know the language that it was being taught in. So we need a training and education campaign with parents to send their kids to school to learn. It is not the school system's job to raise your damn kids. It's not supposed to be a babysitting service. And as we know, the schools are going to have less teachers per student, smaller classrooms, more students per classroom. Teachers are going to have to do more with less. Make it easy for them. Send your kids to school able to speak the language to enhance the culture and the generation. Thank you.
Thank you. That will close our general comments on item number 24. Please.
And, I'm sorry, Mr. President, just for the record, the salary amount on that is $123,276.
Thank you for that clarification. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Next item is item 25, also called special for cards.
Mr. Sachs, item number 25.
Where do you apply for item number 23? Item number 25, a curious question, since 25 and 30 actually refer to a context-sensitive planning grant by Caltrans, or from Caltrans. You're asking the Los Angeles Department of Transportation to submit an environmental justice context-sensitive planning grant. The thing is that both the items are different agenda items. One is for pedestrian and bicycle access. This is item number 25, around 3 Crenshaw Corridor future transit stations. The other is for development of the Virgil Village Context-Sensitive Transit Village Master Plan, but I'm not sure which council district that is. The question I have is, why aren't there 13 other requests from the other council districts? Surely, you all have to make a request to the Los Angeles Department of Transportation to submit an environmental justice context-sensitive planning grant for something in your district. Today's April 1st. Where are they? Who's sitting on their hands? Why are only 2 council districts submitting a plan when it enhances so much difference between the 2 submitted plans? Thank you for your answers. Thank you for moving transportation forward. Thank you for granting $10,000 to FAST. Now why don't you grant the $10,000 I asked you to for FART?
That'll close our comments on that item. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 26, call special for cards.
Zuma Dog is our next speaker. You have 1 minute left, sir.
Yes, this is getting embarrassing, isn't it? It just goes to show. Anyway, 3-year anniversary of Zuma Dog. A lot of things have changed, but one thing that hasn't changed is the annual El Grito Shady Fest. That's right, coming to town. Today it's $50,000. First of all, I hope we're not charging it. Didn't we just give $75,000 to this a couple weeks ago? Are we slipping through multiple special event fees on the El Grito Fest? Did we already approve $75,000 a couple weeks ago, and are we now approving another $50,000? And let me tell you something. The city lost $7 billion in the stock market and shady real estate investments, and I'm here to tell you we got big problems. You better start talking about the budget, and you better start right here. No time for El Grito Shady Fest. Sorry, we don't have money for it this year. I understand that there's sponsors and vendors. I sure as hell hope that there is not admission. If there is admission, I hope people go to jail over this, because the charter says that the special event fee is for open to the public events. Open to the public. So it better be.
Our next speaker is Mr. Anthony.
Good afternoon, City Council. Here we are, viewers, talking about special fee waivers. March 4th, the day after elections, we were sitting here in council, and they brought up $75,000 for the El Grito Festival. At that time, I mentioned, what are we doing here? Now there's another fee for $50,000. This is going to make it $125,000 for our festival. Folks, have you been paying attention to the council meetings? Call your council members, all 15 plus the mayor. Someone hasn't told them the country's broke, the city's broke. We don't have money for this. We can do other things on our own time. We don't need to be funding these special events. There's also one here for $17,000 for our 4th of July spectacular. Listen, we can go buy our own fireworks. We don't need to spend $17,000. Let these folks know you're paying attention. Call them on a regular basis starting today.
Thank you very much. That'll close our comments for this item 26. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Next item is item 28, call special for cards.
All right, so we had Mr. Dog who reached his limit. Arnold Sachs on item 28.
Thank you. Arnold Sachs. Here's my problem with this. Yesterday in the Daily News, there was an article on the front page regarding the brand-new high school that's going to be opening on 711 Grand Avenue. The headline was LAUSD or charter. The question is this opening a door here? Are we opening a gate? Why is the city becoming responsible to install security systems for charter schools? Where is LAUSD's responsibility lie? What about security? Will the police now take over security for the charter schools? Will they be responsible for patrolling the charter schools? Isn't that LAUSD's domain for their police department? What about LAUSD has an eminent domain policy that is different from the city's? The city says, no, you can't. The public doesn't want their property taken. LAUSD says, yes, we need it for a school. At what point does the city's responsibility for these schools stop? And security seems to be a very, very slippery slope. Why are we funding security systems for charter schools? And why isn't that presented up front when the charter schools are being considered for the public use? Is it a public use? It's not a public use because not everybody can attend a charter school. Well, thank you for your clarification, Ms. Hott. The question, though, still remains. At what point does the city's responsibility for security stop and LAUSD's start? Thank you.
Thank you. That will close our public comments on item 28. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. If we can take up item 33, please. And we have a card from the public. Dr. Clyde Williams would like to come forward on item 33. Mr. Williams here? I just saw him a second ago. If not, we'll close the We're hearing on that, and Mr. Zine, item 33.
Yes, Mr. President, on that matter, the mayor's office has requested that this matter be pulled back. So I understand from the city attorney that we have to vote no on this matter. The mayor's office then pulls it back, and they're going to resubmit in another form. Is that correct, Mr. City Attorney?
That's correct. If council does not act today, then it will be deemed approved. So council should vote disapproval today so that it could be resubmitted.
Okay, so we ask that the council disapprove, and I've already discussed this with the mayor's office. They're going to resubmit in another form. So we then vote no.
Well, just for the information, there is a committee report, so if you wish to do a substitute motion and substitute disapproval,
yes,
you can do that,
yes.
And then that requires 10 votes.
Okay, so we have 10 votes here, I hope.
We'll see.
We better have 10
With
votes.
Mr. Zine as the maker, it could be shaky, but we'll see.
So,
he moves, and an aye vote is to disapprove. Please open the
an aye
roll.
vote is to, I want to make sure everybody understands.
You want a yes vote.
And there's a...
Wait, Mr. City Attorney's got some clarification.
Mr. City Attorney?
Since there's a little bit of confusion, there should be then 2 votes, one whether to substitute.
Okay, we'll first vote on the substitution, which
So we
is...
vote aye on the substitution.
Why do we need to do substitution? It was just a motion he made, right?
Yes, and the motion is whether to substitute.
So we request an aye vote on that. Okay.
Okay.
Open,
close,
roll.
and tabulate the vote.
12
That has now been substituted. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
As substituted, that is now deemed rejected. Thank you, Mr. Zine. We'll now take up item 32, which is an item for closed session. If we can
Wait. So have we done what we want to do?
Yes, you did it.
I thought you said there were 2 votes, Mr. City Attorney.
Can someone please explain to Mr. Zine slowly? We will now clear the room for our closed session. Yes, Mr. Cardenas, did you have...
Did I just miss an April Fool's on behalf of the city attorney?
No, it was actually just real humor. Mr. Zine wasn't even doing a joke.
And not in a cheerleading outfit, by the way, Wendy Grill.
All right. Every day is April Fool's and CD3, right? Come on, Mr. Zine. We will go into closed session now, and we'll await Mr. Zine's response when we come back into open session. Thank you. Thank you. We'll now take up the last item in open session. Madam Clerk?
And that's item number 32, and that's Petar Blanusa and the AFSCME against the LACRA, and that's a settlement agreement to release and waive any claims of any nature whatsoever against the CRA and the city, and also in exchange for that is $145,000 monetary.
Okay. If nobody wishes to be heard on that, let's go ahead and prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Next order of business, please.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Those are posted and referred.
And that clears the desk.
Okay. Any announcements, colleagues? I think there's an excuse that we laid on the desk from yesterday as well for Mr. Alarcon. We can go ahead and approve that now as well.
Yes, and that was for Mr. Alarcon.
Right. Mr. Parks, announcement?
Adjourning motion.
If I can ask, if there's no announcements, if I can ask folks to please rise for our adjourning motions. Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask all members to join me in requesting the council adjourn in memory of Adriana Bachin, 19, native of Santa Barbara, who was recently the victim of a hit-and-run traffic accident at 3 a.m. Sunday, March 29th. The motorist ran a red light, struck her just north of the University of Southern California campus at Jefferson and Hoover in the crosswalk. She's a member of the California Gamma chapter of the Psi Beta Phi sorority and was majoring in environmental studies. She's a graduate last year from Santa Monica High, where she had a 4.0 honor student and also played soccer. Her funeral services are pending, and she's survived by her mother, Carmen, and her father, and a host of other relatives. And just earlier today, we approved a reward motion in her behalf.
Thank you. All members on that. Any other adjourning motions? If not, Madam Clerk, please call the roll. We'll next be in session on the 3rd of April.